Live from La Ciudad de Nueva York. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live once again. And we're back. What's going on, everybody? What's happening in Ireland, Gary? All right. Looking forward to today's show. You know, I like having people on once in a while that I haven't worked with, I don't know that well, and I get to do my homework and learn a lot about them and their career. And this is the case with today. So definitely looking forward to having our guest on today. And you know, we're gonna have Mac Ray's gonna be on today. He's gonna pull out a vintage T-shirt for us. Another drummer, Mac Ray. Greetings from Poland. What's happening in Poland? Come on now. Radoslaw. What's happening, my Polish brother? What's up, Donald? How are you, bro? Chris Hoffman. How was New York, buddy? Did you have fun up in New York? I saw Chris at the Tompkins Square Park show. That was cool, you know. Hello from Cape Cod. Well, hi. How's things out on the Cape? Shouting out Lori Dawn and the Women of the Pit. Everybody else. So everybody. Yo, Victoria, what's up? Saw Victoria in the park on Saturday. Yep. Yeah, good. You had a good time. If you have a good time. Hey, Anne Maria in the UK. Yeah, it was all good. Good to see all my friends. You know, I was thinking before the show, like, I'm just really grateful that you give me the opportunity to do this show. It's great, and it's been great, and it will continue to be great. And speaking of great, how about the next 4 shows before we bring the hardcore Shutterbug on here? Let me just quickly let you know what's going on. This Sunday, Mr. Caves from Lords of Brooklyn, Graffiti Legend, will be on the show. Sunday, May 8th, a week from Sunday, Bill Manspeaker, the driving force and creator of Green Jelly, formerly Green Jello, and Kevin Von Spur, film director. They're involved in a film called The Life and Slimes of Dookie Fly Swatter and Haunted Garage. Really interesting film. We'll talk about that. And then, in keeping with our film theme, Sunday, May 18th, we have director Leigh Brooks, Joey Z, and Alan Robert from Life of Agony coming on to talk about the documentary film The Sound of Scars, which is streaming now on Amazon Prime and all that. And then Wednesday, May 25th, Pete and Maylin Kohler, the Sick of It All husband and wife team will be on, and that should be really, really interesting. That said, what's up, bro?
Hello.
Hello
From the box. I'm in the box.
What's going on? What's going on in the background there?
It's like a windstorm here in Queens. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's been cold and windy all day. Yeah. Shit flowing by me. So I'm hiding in the box here where it's safe. I got supplies.
Jane, it's a jungle out there.
Stop this crazy thing.
You're right. I want to get off. All right, let's do photo of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, photo of the day. Wrong answers only, please. Here we go. Photo of the day. Boom. Let's see what we got. All right. Is it Ghost?
Love these colors.
Yeah. Is it Ghost on crack? Is it Ghost without the hat? Is it Murphy's Law? Is it Uncle Fester? Is it Halford Rob? Yeah. I don't know what this is. It looks like, yeah, I'm not sure. What else we got? Is it Green Day? Interesting.
I'm going to be pretty impressed.
What's up in London, Vault? Is it what?
I'm going to be pretty impressed. I want to see who gets this one.
Is it the green Mahalishi?
With the 2-pronged crown.
You know who? You know who wrote that song?
Yeah.
People think that's a Judas Priest song. Green Mahalishi was written by Peter Green. And
performed
originally Fleetwood Mac. You know.
And his version's great too.
Early Fleetwood Mac is great, man.
I prefer it to like the Stevie Nicks version myself. I like more of the.
Well, there you go again, saying you're gonna leave. All right, here's another one. Is it Fleetwood Mac? Is it Fleetwood Mac? Is it Buster Blood Vessel? Is it Green Jelly? Is it the Priest from Hell? Is it Here, Larry Kelly? Is it RS-70? Is he biting this dude's neck?
Yes, he is, of course. You get hungry, but you get hungry during the show sometimes,
Wow, nobody's guessed. Okay, right answers only, please. Does anybody know who this is? Here's another one. Is anybody out there? Come on now. Is it Ming the Hardcore Years? Is it a priest about to be killed by Guar? Is it the Lost Boys? Is it the Super Suckers? This might be a first. Actually, nobody knows. Is it Mac 516 Sib?
You know what? Let's throw some hints here. This band's out of Staffordshire, England, and they were one of the original new wave of British heavy metal bands. Came out around 79 even.
Wow.
So, and these pictures were taken in 2018 in Germany.
Nobody knows who this is. That's a first. Almost 200 shows. It's a fucking first.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Is it Bulldozer? Is it Phil Collins? Yeah. Is it Diamond Head? Is it Satan? Is it Vincent and the Prices? What was that? That band in New York, Vincent Price's Right?
That's a great name.
Oh, it is. All right, tell us nobody see this is a first.
Wow. Yep. All right, well, the name of the band is Demon.
Demon.
And they had a very a very well-known record at the time called Night of the Demon. And like I said, they were part of the original Nawabum era, of bands that had come out with Raven and Saxon and Maiden and all those bands, and they played. I happened to see them at the Keep It True Festival back in 2018, and given the direction of our show today, I love these shots. I just love the look of them. I love the colors.
Where is this taken? Where is this?
This is at the Keep It True Festival in Königshofen, Germany.
Oh, in Germany,
which we just learned is quite a bit away from Berlin. So this was a great show, and this band is a very heavy influence. If you do know this band, you kind of hear where Ghost came from. Ghost definitely, musically, visually, these guys were decades before Ghost, and Ghost definitely takes a very large bite from these guys.
You would think so. I like how the one dude, the one dude in the back is sort of like, yeah, like I'll play in the band, but I'm not like getting dressed up. It's like I'm down, but not that down. Yeah. All right, cool.
Wow, all right. I'm surprised. Well, you know what? Every now and then we got to challenge people, so
yeah. Have you recovered from the weekend yet? Yo, I like this. This is funny, bro. Listen, I appreciate the dudes in your band repping my new band.
That was kind of funny. They both showed up, took their jackets off, and were both wearing Incendiary Device shirts.
Listen, it's a big press. big press blitz. It's like everybody's wearing our shirts and we haven't even played yet, you know?
Hey, that's why, you know what? That's the point right there, right? I mean,
yeah,
you can't beat that. And It's just a good looking shirt. Come on now.
Hey,
you know?
Yeah. Bro,
That's
we gave out
stuff.
a lot of, bro, I spent $1,000 and gave out all those shirts, you know?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Well, actually, rephrase that. We spent $1,000
There you go.
on those shirts.
important to everybody kick in,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah.
But that's awesome, you know? And so looking forward to this one, by the way. Big Rod's fan going back to, to when I was just a youth. So
yeah, man.
This is going to be very cool.
I've been doing my homework. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, well, that's, you know what? I mean, this is a cool one. This is what I love. These are some of my favorite episodes when we creep outside of the circle, you know?
Yeah.
So
Cool Sherpa, can you name 3 songs?
Oh man. Awesome.
Can you name one Incendiary Device song?
Well, the funny thing is I can.
Yeah, you can.
That's right. Incendiary Device.
There you go.
In fact, I might have something to do with that song.
You're right. We are Incendiary Advice and Incendiary Advice, and this is called
Incendiary Advice. That's funny. Yeah, well, that's
great.
That song has a lot to do with my all-encompassing melon.
Yeah. All right, listen. Let me get going. I'll talk to you in a bit. Slave to the metal. Hail.
Yes.
All right. Talk to you later.
Later.
Who was asking about the shirt? The shirt. Yeah, they're available to patrons. There's only a couple small sizes left. I think there's only, if you're a small or a medium, there's no more large or extra large or double XL. I think there's a couple smalls and a couple mediums. But yeah, sure. That said, by the way, if you didn't know, now you know. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and 126 Hardcore Clothing. It's a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. Like you, my hardcore friend. My hardcore friend. They are about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your game. www.126hardcoreclothing.com. How about Chacho's Tacos, located in Corpus Christi, Texas? Chacho's Tacos opened the doors in 2001. Home of the almighty Chacho's Taco. They cook up an incredible home-style Tex-Mex food, and this month they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. They've been supporting underground music since the beginning. In their own words, we ain't stopping anytime soon. Touring bands that play Corpus Christi, swing by and get a home-cooked meal at Chacho's Tacos. We got you. The underground scene will never die. Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Last but not least, New York Hardcore Comics. Opened in 2013, selling comic books, punk rock and hardcore memorabilia, toys, statues, skateboard decks, tapes, vinyl, and all things horror. We love helping bands push their demos and new tracks, so please stop by and drop off new music. We have in-store events like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer tournaments, plus meet and greets with bands and some live performances. Open 7 days a week and shipping worldwide. Find us online through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and eBay. Located at 117 Main Street in lovely Dobbs Ferry, New York. www.newyorkhardcorecomics.com. That said, let's bring our Gazette on. I think everything is good. Everybody's behaving themselves. Good. There's no drama going on yet. Let me get my intro. Here we go. Clear the deck. What the heck? Today's guest is a drummer and producer hailing from the gem of upstate New York, Elmira. As a musician, he's known for his work with the bands Kalekos and, of course, The Rods. As a producer, he is known for his work with Anthrax, Overkill, Exciter, Blue Cheer, Possessed, Rhett Forrester, T.T. Quick, and many others. Please welcome, coming at us from lovely Scranton, Pennsylvania, Mr. Carl Canedy. Hey, man.
How are you, Mr. Stone?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing okay. By the way, I like that second camera angle. That was very cool.
Yeah, man. Listen,
very nice.
You know, I'm doing big things over here. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have to say, the band Colossus. We'll have to get into that, and
yeah,
the way you pronounce that from day one with that band, you decided it's a guitarist's middle name and
right.
Our family name, and I'm like that's going to be a nightmare. And that name we've been called everything from Kalakar to Keelikos. It's like the Oneaters. It's the Wonders. It's like, it's hysterical. The name, the butchering of that name.
I've said it on the show a bunch of times. Like, let's call our band something that nobody can pronounce and nobody understands. That's always a great idea,
It's a great idea. Mm-hmm.
So what's the latest? And what's the latest during the pandemic? I know we're pretty much out of it now. But how did you weather the storm, and what's going on?
Oh boy, there's a lot going on. I have a lot of projects in the works. The pandemic, starting with the pandemic was that was a little crazy. The lockdown. At the lockdown, I was working on the Canedy album, all the digital marketing and all of that. So I was pretty much at the computer for 11 hours a day. And but somehow I found time for 7 meals plus desserts throughout the day. And so I gained about 30 some pounds during that period of time. I was unbelievable how much weight I gained.
I don't feel so bad about the 20 that I can't lose now,
Well, fortunately I was able to lose all of that and a little more. But point being that it was rough. And then I was scheduled for my shot, and I wound up with COVID 2 weeks prior to when I was able to get my vaccination. Back then, remember, in the beginning, you had to schedule it, and it wasn't easy to get. Sure. So I contracted COVID, and I was really, really sick during that time. And so eventually I got past it. And so, here we are, carried on. Good. But it was not as it was for many people, it was not a fun time.
I had both shots in a booster, and I got COVID. And I got really, really sick, man. I mean, I got really friggin' sick. I almost ended up in the hospital, So that was. Don't worry, Bob Riley. Bob Riley says, I want to hear some crazy Rhett Forrester stories. We're going to get to it, bro.
Oh.
Be patient. There's a succession of events here with this show. Be patient. We'll get there.
I have some Rhett Forrester stories.
I bet you do. I said it early in the show. I love doing shows, with guys or gals that I haven't worked with in the past. So it's new and fresh for me. And boy, I sure learned a lot doing my homework for this show. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? Where were you raised?
Well, I spent 3 years in California from age 9 to 11. Actually 8.5 to 11.5, whatever. But I wanted to play drums. I'd wanted to play drums since I was 4.5 years old. My mother took me to a wedding reception, and I remember an Army tank, and it was an American Legion. I remember, how the American Legions always have there's like a grate. The old ones have a grate, and then there's an opening in the middle. The stage isn't that high. There was a red drum set in there, right? Red sparkle drum set. And it was like the white lights shone down on the drums. I heard the Alleluia singers, and from age 4.5, I wanted to play drums. But it was just my mom, no money, so I didn't get drums till I was 13. Till I coerced her into signing a contract from a local shyster store, and but I got my drums. And so, but prior to that, I wanted to play in California, and all the drum chairs were taken. So I started with clarinet, and I still have my clarinet. And if I had thought about it earlier, Drew, I could have brought it here. We could have done a little bit of little heavy metal clarinet for you.
Do you still play with the clarinet at all? Do you still do stuff with it?
I don't. No. My daughter's a music teacher, and she's learned to play all the instruments. And so once in a while I'll get it out, and I can still have the embouchure. I still kind of know a little bit, and can do my Jethro Tull trills with it.
That's awesome. Your daughter's a music teacher. That's great.
She's a music teacher. She's actually really talented, unlike her father, and I'm very proud of her.
That's real. That's great. She sort of took the legacy, continued the legacy, and she's a teacher, and that's incredible. That's
I'm
awesome.
really proud of her. But I had a recording studio, and when she was young, from the time she was little, I had a nanny there, and she stayed with me right at the studio all day, and upstairs in the office area. And so she was around music from the time she was born. Yeah. And people would say to me, "Oh, do you push her to play?" I'm like, "There are guitars, keyboards, drums everywhere. Whatever she wants, she can play." But she really didn't pay that much attention. She was interested a little bit in the studio, but I closed the studio when she was 6.5. I sold my building. So it was when she started playing. My wife played piano, and so she would play little intervals. And one day she called me in and said, "Listen to this." And I think Erin was probably 4.5, and she could sing the intervals perfectly.
Wow.
So we were both blown away. So I worked with her a little bit on vibrato, how to hold her note and add the vibrato. But after a while, she just took off, and she was doing plays. And I remember reading the music for Memory. She was doing that in the show. And Memory is not 4/4. It's odd time signatures. And I'm like, I started to tell her, "Oh no, phrase it this way." And I was looking at the music, and she was singing it perfectly to the music. She didn't know how to read the music at the time. And I went, "Okay, just shut up, because you have no clue. She's way ahead of you instinctively." Yeah. And, so I was really thrilled that she went. She wanted to be an actress, and she loved musical theater. But at some point, she decided that wasn't what she wanted, and she loves being a teacher, and she's a great teacher, and I'm proud of her for that.
Fantastic. Early drum influences? Who really spoke to you as a kid and as a teenager? And what drummers really resonated with you?
For me, being young, there was a drummer, Denny Hall, and Denny Hall kind of took me under his wing, and he was and the drummers I love, the nationally and internationally known, Dino Denali, Carmine Appice, drummers I would watch on Ed Sullivan. But those were the drummers like Dino Denali and Carmine. And unfortunately, I was able to take lessons for study with Carmine for a year or so. Wow. And that totally changed my drumming life. But early on, Denny Hall was a disciple of those drummers. I don't think he knew them, but he was able to emulate them. And so he really showed me a lot of things, and showed me a lot of kindness, and, really opened some doors for me. But studying with Carmine when I was 19, that made all the difference for me.
Where did that happen? In New York City?
It happened on Hempstead.
Hempstead?
And, Hempstead.
I have a band member that lives in Hempstead. Home of Jerry Cooney, the boxer, right?
Yeah. So at the time, Caracas, now I had been, and I don't know how involved you want me to get, because there's so much to talk about.
We should go there to Caracas, because I know that you guys kind of circled back and finally released some music. So yeah, let's go. Yes. Let's go there, man.
So I had left a band called Raw Meat with Dave Porter from 805, and it was a great band, and it was hard for me to leave. It was a cover band, and I still love the guys to this day. We're still all friends. But I wanted a recording contract. I wanted to be on a major label. So I left the band, and I went to out west, and I did a Holiday Inn tour, which was great for money, but it was just a nightmare to do. I remember a guy in Billings, Montana said to me, "I have a curtain that goes around the front of the stage, and I could close that. It doesn't matter who's back there. You just have 45 minutes on and 15 off, and that's all I want." So I was like, okay, that's probably not what I want to continue to do. So I went to San Francisco. I couldn't find a band. Went to LA.
Let me ask, what year about is this? Just to frame
this
it.
This was 74, 75.
Okay.
So now I go to LA, and there's just nothing there for me. And of course, you have to network. So I came back east, decided to go to Boston. I went to New York City. That was a disaster. So then I went to Boston. So now in Boston, I find a band called Jack Stella and the Northern Lights. Jack Stella probably has an ego that rivals mine, and huge ego. And so I audition, and I get the gig, and then they call me, and the band calls me, and they said, "Sorry, but we're going with another drummer because Jack thinks you're too good for the band." And I was crushed, right? So like, I come back to Pennsylvania. I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing now? And I get a call within a week, and they go, "That drummer sucked, and we all want you back." So back I go. And so now I go back, and I'm playing with Jack Stella and the Northern Lights, and we're doing a lot of gigs, and we're doing these hotel gigs, but it was good. And the musicians were Boston Conservatory, Berkeley, like these were really great musicians, and the horn section was fantastic. In fact, they would work with me, and they would tell me things like, "That cue, don't ever miss those cues," because they wanted those horns punched. And it was a great lesson for working with horns. So one night we go back on a break, and we go back. We would open for Jack. Then Jack would come out with his glitzy thing, and he would play keyboards. He was horrible, but he would play these stupid runs on the keyboard. And so one night we go back to the dressing room, and he's yelling at everybody. Now, these musicians are fantastic, right? And educated. And they're all looking at their feet. And I'm like, why are they looking at their feet? And Jack is telling him, "All 8 of you jumped. I was playing my solo, and you all jumped at the same time." And I'm thinking, as good as we are, none of us could have improvised that, pal. But nobody spoke up. These guys were just sitting there taking it. And I thought, okay, this is what it's like to be a sideman. So now I know what I don't want to be.
Yeah.
During that time, the guys in Colossus had seen me, begged me to come and stay with them. They said, "Just come
and they were out of, is that right, Ithaca, New York?"
No, Colossus was in. They're all from Cohasset, Massachusetts.
Oh wow!
So
okay,
right. And so I was living there in a hotel, but so they said, "Come and stay with us for a week. We have a room in a house. Come and stay with us." So I said, "Okay." I came for a week, and I wound up staying, and we just couldn't find a lot of work there, although we did play around the area. And then we moved to Ithaca, and so that's how the band started playing a lot, and we supported ourselves. So anyway, and we did an album, and the band broke up right before the Rods, in fact. And I played with a band called the Dean Brothers, who had a regional hit, great people. Annie Burns from the Burns Sisters was the singer. And then David and I started the Rods, but Colossus was the band up until then. And we played 5 and 6 nights a week. We survived on the money we made. And, so now we have a new album. It's almost done. We have one song for me left to play. It's all mixed except for this one song. And the bass player, Link, who's acted as the producer on this album and major songwriter, he bugged me for 6 months. "Sing this song. You got to sing a song on the album." Like, I don't want to sing a song. Come on, give me a break. You've got to sing a song. Now, remember, Colossus is, and I'm with all due respect to my fellow Colossus bandmates, Colossus is a boogie band, Hall & Oates wannabe band. So songs are fantastic.
Hall & Oates wannabe band.
This album, I'm really proud of it. I love the songs on it.
When you say boogie band, like
boogie band.
Just from that era, I think like Savoy Brown or something like that, or like a boogie like Dave Walker,
exactly. Shuffle, and that kind of a boogie band, a loose kind of thing, and like a blues based. And then there's the Hall & Oates side, as well. So now you have these songs that are that. But anyway, He just beat me up every day. What do you think you could sing it? Have you tried to sing it? Why he dissected it for me. He sent me in every possible configuration, pieces like each line separately. And so finally, after 6 months of being beaten up, I'm like, okay, I got to try this song. So I wound up singing the song, and I played it for my daughter. She's my biggest critic. I run my drum tracks by her. She's got such an amazing ear, and she's so talented. And she tells me the truth. And she listens to little things. She finally, after the song was almost over, she goes, "Is that you singing?" Yeah, that's me. So that's how far away from the rods that song is. But I'm proud of the Caracas album, or Kilakos, or Kalakar, or however anybody wants to pronounce it. Because
so after that, the rods come together, and
right.
Basically. So David Feinstein was in Elf with his cousin Ronnie James Dio. Is that correct?
That's right. In the early days, when I had referenced, Raw Meat.
Yeah.
We rehearsed. Elf rehearsed in the house, and because one of the bandmates in Raw Meat was roommates with the guitarist in Elf, we rehearsed in a finished garage, and so I would see Elf guys all the time. We were all interacted. Mm-hmm. So I knew them from that and watching them, at their shows all the time. So I had known David, from that period.
So it was all part of sort of the same community.
Upstate New York.
Mm-hmm. Upstate New York. And yeah. So David was Ronnie's cousin. And I guess, and I'm going off my notes here. I did a little homework, and the Elf thing sort of ended. And David was working at the Wildlife Conservation Department in upstate New York, and he was lured back. Lured, I love that word. He was lured back to jamming. Uh-huh. He was lured by you and Joey DeMeo, who later ended up in, of course, Manowar. Is that right?
That's correct. So now that's a funny story, and I want to tell you this little.
Please, I love the wildlife conservation angle in it.
David. Now, remember, you've seen pictures of David, totally long hair, blown out, and he had a full beard and mustache, right?
Sure.
So now we would go to this little diner, and at the time, I wasn't really aware that he had done
a little diner in upstate
in Cortland, New York.
Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be the Roscoe Diner. Right?
No, this is in Cortland, New York. Roscoe Diner is famous. Yeah. By the way, and anyone goes to Cortland, the Hollywood restaurant is David's restaurant. It's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Italian American food. It's fantastic. But anyway, so we go to this little diner in Cortland, and I really didn't know anything about the conservation thing. We were just starting the band. And remember, he has really long hair, full beard, mustache, right? We're sitting there, and these old guys would come up. And they'd sit down with us, and I think, what the hell is this? Like, what's this all about? Like, usually, at that point in time, I thought they would run from somebody who looked like us. So they sit down, and they would lean in, and they go, "So, I was at the lake, and I'm just wondering. We were out early, but what do you think? Like, in lures or in bait? What do you think?" And they're asking him for advice on fishing and trapping this blown-out, long-haired guy. I was like, "What is going on?" So they respected him, and David was a hunter and trapper, which he gave up a long time ago. But he was a hunter, fisherman, trapper. He really knew his way around, and he built his log cabin and his barn on top of 50 acres on top of the mountain, where we used to drop him off after gigs where they had a battery operated TV. And
wow,
so he was an outdoors guy. But so what happened was I was in a music store. Brian Miles, again, the singer in Raw Meat, had a music store, and I was in the store, and Denny, our light guy, Denny Dragone, comes in, and it was very formal. Denny and I had been roommates on the whole Caracas thing for the whole few years. And he comes in, and he leans into me, and he goes, "Mr. DeMeo and Mr. Feinstein would like to see you outside." And I was like, "Denny, what the hell? What? We've roomed together for 3 years on the road. Now it's Mr. Feinstein and Mr. DeMeo, and like he barely knows me." So I go outside, and I get in the car, and they're in the front seat. I get in the back seat. It was like I thought, okay, so somebody's gonna wire around my neck now. It's a mob hit, but
right.
It wasn't. So Joey turns around, and David's with him, and he points to me. Do you want to play with boys or do you want to play with real men? And I was like, well, what's the answer to that? Real men, of course. So the three of us got together and we did. David and Joey had been in Thunder together, right, with David Galutz. And that was an interesting. Caracas actually opened for them. So we got together and we worked on some material at my place. And then it kind of didn't go anywhere. So that was kind of how the split. David and I started the Rods. Joey started Man of War and invited me. And so then I wound up at a crossroads at some point.
Did the Rods, I know the Rods ended up on Arista. Did that happen? No, actually, excuse me. You put out the first Rods record by yourselves. You recorded it. Would you print up 1,000 of them? Is that Yes. I mean, it's sort of it reminds me, and I wanted to touch on this before, which is it reminds me a little bit of the Twisted Sister situation. It's like we got to go out and do it by ourselves. We got we have a fan base. Let's not wait for a handout, which is a very hardcore ethos, which is get up, get out, and make it happen. And from what I gather, that's kind of what you guys did. You said, "Hey, let's record and let's put out our own record." And then the record, you guys ended up getting signed by Arista, and they re-released it. Is that safe to say?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I had started a label for Caracas, and so we had released our album and a couple of singles through my label, Primal Records. And so when it came time for the Rods, when David and I started, and Steve Starmer became our bass player, we rehearsed. We worked in my garage building equipment, which we still have some of those cabinets to this day. We silkscreen T-shirts. And then we would go to Falso Music in the morning and go back to my place, and then we go back to Falso Music at night and rehearse. So we started writing songs. I had written songs. David had songs, and so Chris Bubach, who did the first Metallica album, Spyro Gyra, I mean, he's done so much, so accomplished. Chris was at Fredonia University, and so he was able to let us record there for basically free. So we started recording about 3 or 4 months into being together. We started going to Fredonia and recording the first Rods album. So that's how it happened. And once we were done with the album, we put it out on my label, Primal Records, 1,000 of them. And there are I think I have 3 left.
Is
we don't know where they went. We don't. Do you have them, Drew?
Yeah. Is this well? Our good friend Bob Riley. Is this the first? Is this the original cover? That's the cover, right? Mm-hmm. Bob Riley, who is a very close friend of mine and big supporter of the show, who lives in Troy, New York, who's a big collector, says the first Rods record, Rock Hard, sold for $600 on eBay. So
yes,
yeah,
it's crazy how much. And you can see that I have a beard there. Yeah. That was the first time in my life I'd had a beard. That was 70. That was 79. And now, because of COVID, I have a beard again, 42 years later.
Right.
And it pretty much looks the same, right? Okay, yeah.
Is that right? The first Rods show, first major show the Rods played was at the Broome County Arena opening for Foghat?
It was. Prior to that, we were looking for managers, and Doug Thaler, who managed Motley Crue and different bands, he set us up with Cedric Kushner. So our first show was opening for Judas Priest in the Paramount Theater, I think it was, in Albany, New York.
Wow.
Could be wrong about the theater. And it was cool because and what's funny is, we were starving musicians. We lived on those 3 guys. I have in my journal, we were out 63 days. Whenever we were off the road, we would go to Fredonia. We were out 63 days. We lived on $5 a day. Woo! And that was our per diem. And Steve, the bass player, smoked. So he had to buy cigarettes out of that. Oh. And so it was not an easy, thank God the charity of, friends and people on the road. But we struggled. So we go to the Paramount Theater our first time. Now there's a deli tray that's there. And we're looking at it, right? And it's like pimento loaf and bologna and some kind of that gelatinous ham they used to have.
Like head cheese, cheese.
And so,
yeah.
And then the orange cheese, right? And so looking at it, we're like, oh my God, we're like, we probably shouldn't touch that. That's probably for Priest. And we had no idea that crap they brought in was obviously for us. Priest was getting steak and lobster, but we were getting the bologna and pimento loaf. Till they go, no, that's all for you guys. We're like, oh my God, that's great. So we watched Priest. It was a disastrous show. Mm-hmm. And so that's how that happened. That's how we wound up with a change from Steve Starmer, who's a phenomenally great guy, and he's come back and sat in with us, and we love Steve and always did. But that's how we wound up with a change. Cedric Kushner actually told David to get rid of both Steve and myself because the show was so disastrous. We had no monitors. We had no clue about anything. When David started playing, I heard, and I'm like, wait, I have to come in somewhere here. It was a disaster. Yeah.
Now, is this the Arista cover of the re-release?
It is. And we first signed.
So give us a little background on, I mean, Arista, that's a bit of an odd label to sign a heavy.
It was.
Group, right.
And as you look at that photo, the night before that, I had done the Man of War demo. And Man of War had a huge, huge party, and I was up all night. And then David and Gary picked me up at like 9 a.m, and I had about 2 hours sleep. Then we went to take pictures. You tell the genius that I was.
Partying with Man of War.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone parties any harder than Man of War. So, but anyway, and I don't drink. So that was me, and I had not had a drink. I don't drink. So Bertelsmann Group, Areola, was picking us up, Areola America. It wound up being absorbed by Arista. And and Arista chose to keep Crocus and the Rods. And Mike Bone was our A&R guy, and Mike Bone was instrumental in that. And he was a great A&R guy. I think he signed a number of bands, Metallica. I think he signed Metallica. He was there. Aaron, I know Michael Alago was, but Michael might have been involved with it, Elektra as well. But or anyway, Motley Crue. But anyway, Mike Bone was a great A&R guy. But they kept Crocus, they kept us. But at the end of the day, clearly it wasn't a good fit for us. And Clive came with his entourage to see us at CBGB's, and he sat there, and David was doing his guitar solo, and the lights were in his eyes, and he walked out on the table and kicked a beer in the direction of Clive. He didn't see it; it was on the table. So that Clive promptly got up and went back to one of his white limos that was waiting outside. So I think so we got some tour support, but not the floodgates did not open.
And you ended up doing you ended up doing Wild Dogs on Arista, and then you kind of folded the tent after that, correct?
Right. We went to England to record that, and then so we went to Parkgate Studios and we recorded Wild Dogs, and then we went on tour with Iron Maiden.
Was that the Number of the Beast tour?
Number of the Beast tour, and then at the end of that, we came back and finished it at the Enid. You were putting up photos, and I was looking at the photo, going, "Wait, could that be the Enid?" No, not. But the Enid, I don't know if you're familiar with that band. They were a band around that time. Yeah, the Enid, ENID. They had a studio, and so we went and mixed at the Enid studio. And we rented all this equipment from Pink Floyd, who had massive amounts of equipment that they would take on the road. But when they weren't on the road, they would rent it out to studios, which was very smart.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, they had a lot of gear. They used to store their gear in Long Island City, Queens, as well. Mm-hmm. Out on the Iron Maiden tour, did they treat you well? Was it an enjoyable experience?
I couldn't say one bad thing about it. The first day of the show, the whole band came in with champagne and welcomed us. And they said, when we were on tour with Priest treated us so badly that we had to take our equipment. And I'd heard this from other bands, take our equipment off through the crowd from the front of the stage. And they said, we'll never treat a band like that. You guys, and they didn't. Their crew was great to us. So it was great. I used to go and sit behind Clive Burr and watch him play. He'd look down and smile, and he was the nicest guy. And so I would watch them every night. And they were great. Had nothing, I can't say a bad word about them. And the other thing was they were fantastic every night. They were flawless every night.
Yeah, it was, one thing I wanted to touch on, we mentioned it before, and we might be going back a little bit. And I talked to JJ French about this and a couple of the people, how back, and this is going back a little bit for you. I know but how back then there was this circuit that existed where for bands like Twisted and TT Quick and Crystal Ship and all those Good Rats that you could go out and work 6 days a week playing.
That's right.
Could you give us some perspective on that?
Well, there were a lot of clubs. Now, when we first started, we were playing clubs. We play clubs for almost no money, $100, $200, whatever they would do.
Sure.
And at one point, we played a place called the Arcade in Ithaca, New York.
Wow.
And it was an empty theater. And so they took everything out. So there were no chairs and the little tiers, right? And they had pillows. It was very echoey, and we were loud. And so I would say by the fourth song, the only people left would be girlfriends and road crew and staff. We drove everybody out of the place. And because, you have to remember, it was like right after the Bee Gees. It was a disco kind of, metal wasn't really, and hard rock even wasn't even something people were going to see.
Sure.
And so and I walked out after that show, and there was a guitar tech from Ithaca Guitar Works sitting there, and I had gotten to know him a bit, and he had seen me in this band, the Dean Brothers, and he said, "Carl, what are you doing? This is horrible. This is horrible shit, man. What are you doing?" And he was like on his, squatting, leaning against the thing, and he was really drunk. And I stopped for a minute, and I thought, wow, what's he, maybe he has something here. And then I looked down at him and went, wait, you're going to listen. You love what you're doing. You're going to listen to this drunk guy holding up the wall. So I was like, okay, yeah. And we carried on. So we played every club we could play. Mm-hmm. And eventually we started to get a following. And then I knew we were doing well because we played in a club in Hornell, New York. And it started out very slow, but after, months and months of coming back every few weeks, suddenly the owner, we went to be rebooked, and I said, okay, can we get a date? And he goes, I can't book you anymore. I'm like, why? The place was jammed. They were like lined up outside. He goes, because I can't make any money. Nobody dances and nobody can get to the bar. And so that was my first, oh my God, this is a crushing blow on one hand. And then the other hand, I thought, okay, well, because we were playing originals by then. So now it was like half originals and we still had the crowd. So I thought, okay.
Oh, what a double-edged sword success can be.
Right? Yeah, no, it was, it was good and bad. I mean, we still needed that money to survive. But anyway,
you mentioned CBGBs.
We played everywhere.
You mentioned CBGBs. Yes. That was a bit of a surprise to me.
Well, that was a showcase. That was during the day, and it was just set up for Clive Davis. Yeah. So, if you Clive Davis,
I know we're skipping around here, but Thomas Starkey asked, did they ever play Lemoore?
Yes.
Oh, yes, yeah, of course, right? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we played Lemoore a number of times, and it was just what a killer place Lemoore was. Was nothing but one of the best clubs I've ever played anywhere in the country, including like Cardi's in Texas, where they're just fantastic clubs, metal clubs. And, Lemoore was just kick-ass all across the board. The people, the club itself. DJ Alex was there. He was a cool guy. And we played in. Lars borrowed my pedals, for Metallica opened for us at Lemoore, which is hard to believe. Yeah, no, it was Lemoore was a great, great place.
Yeah, it was the rock capital of Brooklyn. I just did a Lemoore retrospective show, the show before this with DJ Alex Kane, and we had Danny Lilker. We had Danny Lilker come in. And by the way, Danny Lilker had some very kind words to say about working with you. When we get into the production part of it, we'll get into it. Danny had some really, really kind words to say about you. But sort of, I think the second half of the show we'll get into your production career. But what's the Rods have what is the longevity of the Rods? I mean, how have you hung in there? It's been, I mean, I know you guys have stopped a couple times, but you know, you guys have put out what 6, 7, 8 studio records through the years.
Yeah, we just said, you know, was it 2.5 years ago now? Brotherhood of Metal, and now I have my drums apart, which I don't know if anybody can see it here, but I'm re-hitting my drum set because we're doing Shockwave. I have all the tracks now ready to add my drums to it.
Right.
So, you know, here we are, and with all these songs for the new album Shockwave, and we have more than enough for this album, so we might have another album after this. So yeah, it's, you know, the Rods never broke up. We never had, it was never really any discord. It was that
that's nice.
I was producing. David bought the restaurant. Gary was working with Savoy Brown.
Sure.
And so, you know, that was it. I mean, and nobody was banging down the door for the Rods. We didn't have a manager. We didn't have an agency.
Sure.
So whatever gigs, like somebody would find us and we would go play a gig, but it got to the point where that was kind of it. And so we just wound down, and, you know, then we decided to get back together after our good friend Al Falso passed away, and we had a benefit for Al, and we came together to play for him because he was like the Rod father, as everybody called him. And we loved him. So that was it. But it was never like, oh my God, I hate you guys and I quit or we're done. That's nice. Just kind of, you know, went by the way.
Are you still associated with Steamhammer?
We are not. No, we are not.
So the new record is, if there's a new record, it's a new label.
That's right. It'll be a new label.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I want to take a sponsor break and come back, and I want to get into the production stuff. Is that cool?
That's cool.
All right. I'll see you. Give me a couple of minutes. Let me hash this out so we can go deep. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live, and our guest today is Carl Canedy from the Rods, and we're going to get into some cool production stuff in about a minute, and I'm excited about that. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, The Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, 126 Hardcore Clothing, and since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as T-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls are made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com. Follow them on Facebook and on Instagram. Come on now, the Texas Silver Rush is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in work with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and, believe it or not, social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, actually, you know what I'm wearing here? This was given to me by the Texas Silver Rush. This is an agnostic front silver chain. I wear it once in a while. I'm not sure what made me wear it today, but this is Rush. Information on online sales is being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. I want to mention a couple of things. Of course, there is a Patreon page, and for all you patrons out there, on June 7th, Saturday, June 7th, we are heading out on the Patreon cinematic and music walking tour. For those that have done it, you know, any of the Patreon, any of you guys that are patrons can come out and do it. It's free. We do Times Square, Central Park. We go down to the Village. You know, it's a great experience. You know, come hang out with Sid the Kid. You know, smoke some grass with Rat Bones if that rings your bell. You know, it's a fun time. So just a heads up to all you patrons out there, on Saturday, June 7th, we are doing the New York City Cinematic and Music Tour. Love doing it. It's a lot of fun. and I hope you can make it. Also, please support the show. Man, will you please support the show? Join Patreon. There's a $2 tier, a $5 tier. This show needs your support now more than ever. Now more than ever, we need your support. Hey, did I mention, and I think I did, just a heads up on this, the 200th show's coming up. And if you don't know, if you're living in a cave and you don't know, the 200th show on Saturday, June 19th, is going to be Mr. Evan Seinfeld. Entrepreneur, biohazard. It's going to be great. This is going to be a great show. Evan's coming on for the 200th show. So hope you can be a part of it. It's going to be great. Also want to mention I am moderating the Nancy Burrell book event at Generation Records on Saturday, May 14th, which is the first day of the Black and Blue Bowl, but this is happening early. Kate 108's playing an acoustic set. This is happening from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and then we were all heading to the Black and Blue Bowl. So come on through. What did I say? What? No, not Mason. What are you talking about? No. Evan's show? No. Yeah, it's going to be great. Yes, it is the pre-party to the Black and Blue Bowl. I am Women of the Pit is co-hosting it. It's going to be great. Nancy Burrell, old friend. We're going to talk about her book, I'm Not Holding Your Coat. So come through Generation Records, another great sponsor of this show. So that said, what else? I'm in Germany, in Berlin, at the Cortex store, signing copies of the New York Hardcore Chronicles Volume 1, 1980 to 1989. The third printing is in. If you do not have it, you can purchase it at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. It's $24.95. It's a cool book based on all the flyers. Lots of couple hundred people commenting on it. And there it is, www.stonefilmsnyc.com. Buy the book, support the show, enjoy yourself. The cinematic tour, I'm sorry. The cinematic tour is, it's May 7th. You're right. My apologies. The cinematic tour is May 7th. You are correct, Chucky. Thank you. And are you coming out, Chucky? Am I putting you on the if you're coming, let me know. You know, all are welcome. Join Patreon. You know, do you know that Satan's coming on the show? Did we mention that on Wednesday, June 15th? We are super excited. We have Satan coming on the show. Ruler of hell, swallower of souls, creator of rock and roll. Lots to talk about with Satan, association with the Rolling Stones, Slayer. Super excited about having Satan on the show. That is going to be a fun one. I think that covers a lot. I think we're good. Let me clear the deck. So everybody, yeah, thanks, Chucky. That was good. What's a weekday? Am I getting all this wrong? When is the fucking walking tour? Hold on a second. Now I'm getting aggravated. You know? As far as I know, the walking tour is Saturday, May 7th. All right? So there you go. Let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest back on. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Carl Canedy. Amen.
Hey.
Hey. So
I want a taco, by the way.
Yo, Chacho's Tacos is no joke, man.
This sounds great. And by the way, the book seems so cool. I love the idea of the posters and the flyers. I mean, it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I directed the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, I just ended up with, you know, all this sort of material, all this ephemera, and a lot of flyers. And I've always been attracted to flyers, and I love that sort of period in time where flyers were super creative and all that. And it's basically flyers, but you have a flyer, and then you have someone say, "Hey, I was in that band. I remember that day." And then you have, "Hey, I produced that show. Hey, I made that flyer." You know, or, "Yo, I was outside. There was a fight outside the show." So it's sort of like,
and the flyers.
Yeah.
The flyers were really cool, and you'd flyer everything and be on the walls. You'd be on poles. It would become art.
Sure.
That was very cool.
Yeah. So how did you fall into music production? How did you go down that path?
I think from early on, and somebody asked me, which was really interesting because a friend of mine who's a country artist, I sent him a country song I had written, and so he's like, "I like this. I'm going to try to record this." And so then we were trying. He wanted to know if I had the chord chart for it. And so I said, "I don't know." So I grabbed my guitar and I was trying to figure it out because it had been forever. And so I was figuring out some of the chords, and I sent him a picture of this E minor 7 thing that I had. And I go, "I know that during the walk down from the G, it's this chord." He goes, "I didn't know you played guitar." Now, he's known me for 40 years. And I think that's true of a lot of people. I started playing guitar within 6 months of getting my drum set when I was 13. And then hacked away in piano, which I just have to say is that I have written probably 100 songs on piano, and they are without doubt. And I should have some kind of plaque from Guinness Book, the worst songs ever written in the history of music on piano. They're so bad, lyrically, musically, just horrific. But for some reason, for years and years, I would just go to the piano and just, okay, time to write the worst song ever written. But anyway, so early on, I always had this thing drawn to arrangements, and easy to understand arrangements and memorize. And so I would always have my hand in arrangements. And early on, I had 2 friends from college. They were older and they were in college, and I was still in high school. And they've got mono tape recorders, and I would play acoustic guitar into one of the tape recorders, and then I would record on the next one, play the guitar, and then record it to the next one and sing something or play something. And it was so horrible, but eventually the hiss would build up so that you couldn't even tell how horrible the song was because it was all hiss. But so I was into production from day one and arranging. So eventually I started doing some demos for some local bands, and that's how I got into it. And then when David and I started recording, we couldn't afford a producer, so he and I would work with each other. You know, we would basically guide each other.
Did you build out a studio early on, like in your basement and stuff?
No. I mean, I had a room for my drums and whatever, where I had my 4-track and all that. But
you were always going. You were always going into
studios,
local studios upstate.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. And so once we got to Fredonia, that's when we really started getting into production, because now we had a 24-track studio, you know, an actual console, you had EQ and microphones, and, you know, we did things like Chris built a drum hut. We put things over the drums, and it was like barely room to clear my head, but you know, we experimented with different things. And so that's how I got into it. And then from there, we just kept on with the Rods albums, you know, producing that. And then at Music America, Chris Bubach again was now at Music America, and we were recording a Rods album there. And he was talking about Johnny Z. So I called Johnny, and rest in peace, Johnny, because you know, I miss him so much. He and I were always
did you have any relationship with him before that phone call?
I did not. We spoke on the phone, and we hit it off. And so that led to him giving me a shot producing Fistful of Metal.
Yeah, and since you brought us there, let's go there. Here is the cover of Fistful of Metal. And hold on. So the first Anthrax Fistful of Metal, Neil Turbin was singing, correct?
Yes. Dan Locher on bass, Neil Turbin.
Right. Dan Spitz, Charlie, and Scotty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And any memories, recollections of the process?
Lots. And the thing I remember when they came in, they had all these Marshall cabinets with camouflage grill cloth. So they were hardcore, and I totally related to them because I was driven to get a deal, and so were they. And I recognized it in them, and I appreciated it. And plus, they were a phenomenal band. They were young, and but they were phenomenal. And it just, for me, it was trying to get the best out of them and get them to be as tight as they could be. Remember, this music was changing of the guard. People weren't hearing these kind of BPMs coming out of a band. Not everybody heard it. And it was interesting for me because I would see, well, first of all, Scott started the whole knot thing, and which just took off and became, a household word. But, Charlie was such a consistent drummer, such a great drummer. I remember telling him, Charlie,
you're a great drummer, man. Great drummer.
You're going to be featured in Modern Drummer. Like, you're going to be just a drummer's drummer. I mean, phenomenal. But Charlie was like basically the one take guy. He came in, his drums were tuned really well, and like gung ho, he did it in one take, and we were all in awe because, those bass drums today, when people play very fast bass drums, are fast. Yeah. And he knocked it out back then. So, and Scott was just super tight, and Dan Spitz was just blazing on the guitar, and Dan Locher was so talented, and Neil was an amazing voice as well.
Danny Lilker was literally on the last show I did, and he told a story the other day about how you got him first time to play with a pick, and he's forever indebted. I guess before that, I can't picture Dan Lilker playing with his fingers, right? But he played with his fingers before that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, and so to that story, the Rods played in Chicago, and we were opening for, we were one band or several bands, but we were before Nuclear Assault. And so we were all hanging out, but we were the night before at the pre-show. I was sitting at a table, and you know how tall Dan is, right? He's a tall guy. Sure. I'm sitting at the table, and Dan comes in. I haven't seen Dan since those Anthrax days.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, he comes, he looks at me, he goes, "I want to talk to you."
I want to talk to you.
I want to talk to you, right?
No, that's him. I want to talk to you.
I want to talk to you. So I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, he's just going to tell me what a sucky producer I was, how much he hated working with me, what a jerk I was.
Oh no,
he's going to go off.
He's such a kind soul. Yeah,
he is. But I hadn't seen him, so I had no clue. He sits down and he's so very soft spoken. He's such a nice guy, and he goes, "I really have to thank you because you told me I have to learn to play with a pick," and he goes, "It changed my life. I made such a huge difference in my music playing with the pick."
That's awesome.
And I was like, "Thank you." Thought I was going to get blasted, but what a good guy. But Anthrax was really talented and super driven, and I love the music from day one. And Neil was phenomenal. I'm so happy Neil is doing well now. Neil got really bashed and treated a little bit unkindly, I think, for a while. And I'm glad he's reclaiming what he deserves, because he is a super talented guy and he's a good guy.
Here's a shot. This one, you sent this to me. It's a little low res, but we got to put it up anyway. A shot of Lars, you, and Neil, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's in, I want to say that's in Paris. That's in Le Bourget. We played a festival there. Neil was there as well to sing. Neil came on with Rhett Forrester. I know somebody asked about Rhett Forrester, and that was Rhett Forrester was singing at that with Jack Starr, Paul Kane, Gary Bordenero, and Neil Turbin came on and sang. I don't remember what songs he sang. That's kind of a blur to me, which is a shame because I don't drink, so I have no excuse.
Yeah. So they end up back in the studio with you to do Spreading the Disease. And
right. It was actually Armed and Dangerous was prior.
Was Armed and Dangerous always kind of confused me. Was that a totally separate recording session?
Yes and no. Yes.
Okay.
No. So it was Johnny. I think he wanted to keep momentum with the band. So
yeah,
he came back in, and so we had gone to Long Island to do pre-production. So we worked on arrangements or whatever. So we get to the studio, and they had a singer they brought with them, and he was young, he was partying, and I took the guys aside and said, he's not going to get you to a major label.
Right.
And so they said, get Johnny on the phone, and called Johnny and said, Johnny, this is the story. He's just it's not going to get them to a major label. And he said, okay, put the band on the phone. So they went to the conference room, and they came back in 5 minutes later, less than 5 minutes, like very quickly. And said, Johnny wants to talk to you. So I go to the conference room, I pick up the phone, and John says, put him on a bus.
Put him on the bus. Put him on the bus.
Put him on the bus.
Poor bastard. But hey,
thanks, John.
In his kind of defense, at least, I mean, he ended up singing for Skid Row before Sebastian Bach, right? We're talking about Matt Fallon. Yeah.
Matt Fallon. And Matt Fallon was talented. He was just young and just not the right fit. So for them to say, let's put him on a bus, and for that to happen,
well, how do you do that in a recording studio? Let's put our singer on the bus and let's continue recording without a singer. And then from what I know, and I knew this even before you agreed to come on the show, you kind of made a call. And how did Joey Belladonna come into the picture?
I had, Andrew Duck McDonald is a good friend of mine. And so he had been working with Joey. And so I called him and I said, okay, the guy, and I to this day, I have nothing but the greatest respect for Anthrax because they made that move. I really, it was the right move to make. It was a ballsy freaking call because the safer thing to do would be, let's just struggle on with this guy. Matt wasn't the right guy. I don't think Matt was really into it, in his defense. I don't even know that he was like, yeah, I love this. So for them to go, okay, at that point in their career, when they could have just made another album and gone on to whatever degree, to be there with no singer was like, wow, these guys are serious.
That could have been the end of it right there, man.
But they were like, know what, we got to do the right thing. And they trusted me, but then it was on my shoulders to help find somebody. And fortunately, Duck said, you know what, call Joey Belladonna. And so I said, okay. I called Joey, and he came in. And I remember the guys had the door cracked. And Johnny was there. We worked with Joey, and it took a while because remember, I have to keep putting things in perspective because
Joey came from a totally different singing background. Journey, and he's like what's his name? Queen.
Steve Perry.
Perry. Yeah. So he's coming into this thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And not only is he coming into this thing, which is a heavy thing, but it's the changing of the guard. It's heavy BPMs. It's a totally fast rap style. And if you remember that Billy Milano was hanging out with them, and these guys were playing, Public Enemy in between. These guys, these guys were into rap way before anybody in upstate New York was.
Sure.
And so they were bringing those elements to their music. So for Joey, this was really fast and, tough to get these lyrics together. And
is that right? Excuse me. Bob Riley says he sang upstate in a band called Triffid. Does that make sense?
That name sounds familiar. So I can't say for sure, but it does sound familiar.
Right on.
So
go ahead.
So we came in. No, it's okay. And I remember that. I'm glad somebody's asking something. He came. We worked with him, and he went out and sang, and the guys were behind the door, And this was his audition, remember? So there was no get the band together and play. This was like, here, we're going to play the tapes and you're going to sing to it. And,
so he excuse me, he went right in to the vocal room, and he's in front, and this is like, man.
Gave him lyric sheet, ran it down with him. Johnny was helping him. I was helping him. I mean, you're talking about trial by fire. And but you know, he nailed it. He nailed it. And but the guys were behind the door. I remember the crack in the door, and they're all listening. And then they were like, he's the guy. And for me, to this day, as much as I've loved Anthrax for every aspect of the career, Joey, for me, and just say for me, but he's the voice of Anthrax for me. Sure. There's a uniqueness that happens, a synergy that happens with their music and Joey's voice that makes them Anthrax like nobody else has.
And here's a shot from that era of you, Joey. I see Johnny Z, Marsha, right?
Marsha,
yeah, what a great shot.
And Marsha and Johnny, it's so sad they're gone. And you know, they're just such great people. And Johnny and I had stayed friends, and Marsha had stayed friends all these years. But in the last 4 years, Johnny and I were really, you know, had gotten close. I mean, right up to his death, we were talking 3-4 times a week. In fact, you know, I'm working on a book, but when Johnny was working on his book, he would call me, Kyle, what happened here? I don't remember what happened here. You know, he would ask me stuff that even things that I wasn't even, you know, projects I was involved with. He just asked me like, what was my recollection of these things? So it's left a big hole for me, and I miss them terribly. And Marsha, but they were just one of a kind, such great people, and it's a big.
Yeah, loss. I had him on the show a couple months before he passed, and it was a real honor to have him on. And you know, he wasn't going to do the show, and I just said, just here's a link, just see the kind of show I'm doing. And he looked at it and he got back to me and said, you know what? I'm gonna do the show because it just seems like you have such a good time and your people are good. And I was really honored to have him on. When he at that point he was sort of, I'm over it, you know. And he came on and the show was great. We had such a good time. You know, he was really, really, really great. And
he was. You know, he was like a brother and a mentor, and you know, just the greatest guy.
You know, I got to say, I'm sort of surprised that there's never been a memorial or for him, like an event or a recognizing type of thing. There's never been sort of I guess the family wanted a quiet service for him, and you know, there's never been sort of a, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what Ricky and Blair and whatever the family has in mind, or if they have anything. You know, but I'll be there if they have something, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to bring a friend of ours on. He's been on a bunch of times, and you know, playing a band with him, and he's a drum teacher from the Poconos, Mr. Matt Gray. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen. What's going on?
How are you,
buddy?
Hey,
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Got 4 or 5 online lessons coming up here in like 15 minutes, so.
Wow, I'm sorry it took me so long to get you on. Let's jump into it.
No worries.
Do you have a T-shirt for us? And I know you have a record to pull out too, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Go ahead.
So here we go. So it's not an original. All right, I wasn't around back in that era, but we got a pretty rad, pretty badass Riot shirt.
Cool.
And
ooh.
So yeah, I don't know. I got to tell you, I don't even know where I got it. But I'm a pretty big Riot fan, you know. I'm sure all of us are. You know what I mean? But should I do my records or?
Well, no. Do a couple more. Do your thing. Yeah, go. Do you, baby?
Well, all right. We got this.
Oh,
Carl, I'm sure you know what that is.
I know that.
Right on, my man. And then I actually just got this in January on my birthday, and I never even knew that you were a part of this. But I picked this one up too.
Now, what day was your birthday?
January 9th.
9th. Okay, I'm 27th.
And
right on. The Thrasher album. Okay, nice.
That's it, brother.
I'm actually in the process of remixing that.
Oh, no way, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. A lot of good stuff. And you wrote every song on here as well?
Andrew Duck McDonald and I wrote all those songs. In fact, we think about it. We talk about it sometimes, like how we did it. It was that recording session. We'd be in the hotel across the street from Music America, which was where Metallica did their first album, and we'd be in the hotel, and I'd be writing lyrics before we'd go to the studio for someone to sing the song. That's how like we're just the last minute. And we had so many musicians there, and I have to tell you that it was basically the only time I've ever been involved with a recording session orgy. I was like, oh, that's how it was. And I would just come out of the control room because we just kept working. I would come out of the control room and go, okay, he has to come with me. And I'm sorry, dear, he's coming with me for a little while, and pull him away. And then after he could go back out, and I go pull somebody else away. But it was chaos. And then we come into the eye of the storm and it'd be quiet in the control room, and we work, and then they go back out to the orgy. So, but
That's
I think I'm sure there's some good memories for a lot of the musicians.
That's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of characters on that. That's pretty neat.
What's that other one, Matt, you showed me the other day, that like the crazy kind of compilation album? What was that?
Oh, that was the Thrash one. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Got it. What else?
Are we gonna give a drum lesson here in a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you got?
I want to sit in on that. I've got my sticks right here, ready to go.
Awesome.
Hey, Carl, do you do drum lessons these days?
Only if somebody asks me, and I don't really do lessons per se. I'll just get together and steal some ideas from them. And, if there's anything I can show them that I do, which is doubtful, but whatever, I'm happy to share it.
Yeah.
Carl, I would love to hit you up, my friend, and see if we can get together. Seriously.
Hey, you're rocking that Paw Pack shirt, so you're just over the mountain from me.
I know. Yeah. I'm probably about 40 minutes from you. I teach in Honesdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Honesdale is really close. 20 minutes.
I know. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I teach right there. So.
You teach at a store, Dave?
Yeah.
Dave's store?
It's called,
yeah,
Dave. Dave. Yep. That's my boss. Yeah. Dave's great.
Everybody knows Dave.
Yeah. What a great guy. Great bass player.
Yeah. Yep. He is a diehard true musician. I love the guy. He's great. So yeah. He lets me make a lot of noise in his place. So it's cool.
Well, thanks, Matt. Hey, the next time I see you, Matt's going to be in the recording studio in a couple of days.
You got it, man. Cool.
Oh, nice.
Carl, I'll be in touch if that's okay. I'd really seriously like to get together sometime.
Oh yeah, no. You can get my number from Drew or whatever. No problem.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, Matt. Yeah. I know you got drum lessons. I'll talk to you soon.
Say hi to Dave for me.
You got it. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
That's my dude,
What a nice guy.
Yeah, you know what? It's at this stage of the game. I was talking about this with somebody before. It's like everybody in my band, is just guys that I love. I can't, at this stage of the game, it's like if we're gonna do it, it's friends, it's guys I love, and playing with him is great because I must say the guy's a friggin' drum teacher. So the guy is on point. Like when we play, when rehearsal, it's during this pandemic. A lot of people weren't playing and weren't really sharp. This guy's doing, 10 lessons a day online. It's I call him, he's the engine that drives the train, man. He's a great drummer. Yeah.
Like Miles Davis said, if the drummer ain't happening, the band ain't happening. And
that's
right.
True. That's right. We're going to take some questions in a bit, but he
and by the
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, by the way, I'm doing this because as soon as we're done with this, I have to run to Canedy rehearsal. And so, I'm trying to keep myself, my wrists.
What time is your heart out? I don't want to keep you over.
Oh, no, I don't have to leave here until 6 o'clock. So
okay.
We got lots of time.
We won't. Yeah, we'll go till like 5:15 or something. But here's, this in doing research for the show and talking to people that, about this comes up a lot, man. Why does this? I mean, first off, the guy had an incredible voice, but people really seems like this recording and this artist has really, in a lot of ways, aged well and still resonates with people.
Well, when we went to France, we went with Neil Turbin, right? As I said, Gary Bordonero, Jack Starr, and it was, I think we performed under the name Virgin Steel. I think that was the, on the poster. And it was a great experience, but Jack, I think, had other commitments. So Jack wound up going, and we were stuck. Like, we were like, what's going to happen? And I suggested to Rhett, since we were here, why don't we do a solo album? Right. And he loved the idea. So Danny Terbesh and Christiane Terbesh, they were our hosts, and they took care of us. And we wound up rehearsing, and we wrote those songs. Paul Kane, Rhett, Gary, and I wrote those songs. And we put them together over, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, writing those songs. And then off we went to the studio. So it was an intensive kind of thing, It was,
and he lived hard. This guy, huh?
He did.
Yeah.
And he was. He did, and he was. There were moments. First of all, Rhett was a rock star.
Yeah.
He was. There are certain personalities that are bigger than life, and I'm sure you're well aware of them. You interview them all the time. Some people are bigger than life, and they're just a natural thing. And that was Rhett. Rhett could walk into the room, and Rhett just was a star. Everybody gravitated to him. He knew how to handle everybody. He just gave off that aura. But the other side of Rhett, and I really loved Rhett, and we were good friends. But Rhett, when he used whatever he was using, whether it be a little more alcohol or cocaine or whatever substance, whatever it was, he would become not very polite, not very nice. And that side of Rhett was not fun to deal with.
Yeah.
I never had issues with him, but I had embarrassing moments with him. We were with our friends, and he's in France, and he's calling them and I can say the F word, right? Not me saying it anyway. I'm just quoting. But you fucking frogs. He'd be drunk, he'd be belligerent. You fucking frogs, and just derogatory terms, and just nasty stuff. Demanding things. I want leather pants. I want Ray-Bans. You're taking me tomorrow, and I want Ray-Bans, and I can't sing unless I get leather pants, and I want boots. He wanted expensive boots. He would make these demands, and they would give them to him. I probably needed new sneakers. I should have thought to throw a wobbler.
And he passed tragically in a carjacking in Atlanta.
He did. And from all the stories I've heard, that some drug deal that didn't go well, and he was stabbed. He crashed his car and was shot. He told me a story of how he was going. I can't remember where he was going on the plane, and he was some club, and something went wrong. He got stabbed. Gets on the plane, his lung collapses.
Right.
On the plane, right? So, I mean, he lived hard, and it's a shame because he was such a talented guy.
His voice is incredible. Reminds me a little bit of Kevin Dubrow from Quiet Riot, like a voice of that magnitude. He had an incredible range. He was a great singer, man.
Well, when we did that show, Le Bourget, he was the front guy, and the crowd, he had the crowd eating out of his hand. They loved him, because he knew how to command the stage, and he was just all over it. And he had a swagger and a presence, and people recognized it, and they flocked to it. So it was a shame, but he had a big voice, and it was effortless for him. He didn't struggle to sing.
So I'm gonna start asking some questions and taking some questions, but I want to ask you about Metallica a little bit. Is that right? Did you have the opportunity to produce Ride the Lightning?
That's something that comes up once in a million years. That's a really interesting question. When I had been approached by the record label to go
which which was Johnny at the time, right? Johnny Z.
Well, it was actually Music's Steve. Now I can't think of his name. Who owned Music for Nations.
Music for Nations, which is a European-based, which at the time was a
That's
European-based label. Yes, of course.
Right. Now, and I've never had a thank you from Metallica. They probably should give me a thank you. But so they wanted me to go and oversee the production. They didn't want me to produce it. They wanted to pay me to go and be there and be their eyes and ears and make sure that if anything. And that's how I wound up producing the first Hellstar for Combat.
Sort of like an executive producer, right?
Like just basically overseeing it. And
got it.
I declined because I said these guys don't need anybody doing that. These guys know exactly what they want. I'm going to be in their way. They're going to resent me. I'm not going to contribute anything, and so I'm going to just say no, thank you.
Wow.
So I mean, I should have taken the money and just partied the whole time, not going to the studio.
Yeah, sure.
Just going sightseeing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, while we're here, you're working on a memoir these days, right? Why don't you bring us up to speed on that?
Well, I'm about 2/3 of the way through the book, and it was something that I've been asked to do so many times, and I just didn't feel right. Like, who wants to read a book that what do I have to say? And, but, doing interviews, everybody's like, you need to write a book. You have a lot of stories.
Sure.
And Johnny encouraged me. And, but then I was like, I don't know. And if I should or not. And then I had a couple of people offer. In fact, one journalist from Russia did an extensive interview with me. And I thought, well, maybe this is the guy to write the book. And he said, I would love to, but I'm in Russia. It just would be so difficult to do. And he was right. So then I was approached by Philip, who's my editor now. And he came to me and he really seemed to know a lot. And I just still was hesitant. But then I thought, I'll do it as audio files. And so I thought, I'm going to do this for my daughter, even if it doesn't see light of day. So I'm doing audio files, the whole book, even though he is transcribing and adding photos. And we're, like I said, almost 2/3 of the way through the book with that being done, except for a hard edit at the end.
So you're sort of like you're dictating
I'm
your
dictating.
legacy. And then you're giving it to him. That's a great way to do it, man.
And I decided that.
Yeah. You just have to have a good editor.
Yes. And he's been really good about not changing what I'm saying. And the reason, what convinced me was I'm doing it in audio format, saving everything, and that way my daughter will have it. And I thought, if nothing else, she has this, and it'll be, basically my gift to her. If she ever wants to have it, she'll hear it in my words.
It reminds me a little bit. A couple years ago, I had this thing going called Legacy Films, which is sort of like personal documentaries I was doing for people. And, I did a whole bunch of them, like a lot of people want to, let's say your dad was, your dad's was in the army and he had this incredible life and you have kids now. And people say, I just want my grandkids to know who my dad was, and I would do, it was sort of, this gig I had, what we called Legacy Films, and I did a bunch of them, and I'm actually going to revive it
cool.
pretty soon again. Yeah, it's like personal documentaries that I would do for people that would run whatever, a half hour or whatever, and I interview them. It's like an Alago, it's like a Michael Alago film, but for you know what I mean? It's like, but this is your life, and that sort of reminds me of that, because people want to leave something for their kids and for their grandkids, man. What's my legacy? I wish that I would have my grandparents who came from the old country. I sure wish that I would have sat down with them with a camera and interviewed my grandpa and my grandma, who came over from the Ukraine and came over from Poland. I wish, damn, So,
but you don't think of the questions until they're gone, and then you go, I want to ask them. Oh, they're gone.
Yeah.
That's the wisdom comes once they've passed, which is a shame.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I would not I would not have done this book, and who knows what will happen once it's completed. But I would not have done this book if I hadn't come to the realization that it'll be something I can leave to my daughter for whatever it's worth. And at that point, I feel like it's a success. If it's out and somebody wants to read it, that would be great. But if not, I'm totally fine.
And I have to say, and I'm assuming that Johnny's book might have been a little bit of an impetus to get you going too. Johnny's book was a very easy, pleasurable read. You know, it was an enjoyable book. It didn't get bogged down in any of the jive. It was really it was a nice, pleasurable read. And I like books like that, man. You know, I like that kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah, so. I agree. Johnny took great pains to avoid unpleasant, to avoid getting mired in anything that was just not going to be good for the reader or good for
classy.
Anybody, you know?
It was classy. It reminded me, you know, who has a book like that is Roger Moret from Agnostic Front. One of my, a very old friend of mine. He has a book, and it's the same thing. Just a classy guy. You know, didn't get into any of the muck and mire. So let's take one question here, and then I'm going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to take some questions from around the world. But let's take one from our resident historian, Chucky Brown, the singer for Crazy Eddie. He says, did he produce the cover track Sonic Reducer on the Overkill 1985 album Feel the Fire? I believe at the time the song was not on cassette, tape, or vinyl.
Yes. I want to say yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now,
I could be mistaken, but I believe
well, that kind of ties in with Thomas's question. Didn't he produce Overkill's 1985 album? Any memories from those sessions?
Yes. I really like the guys. In fact, I did a show with of course, now I can't think of the name, in the House of Blues in Anaheim a couple of years ago, Metal Allegiance. The band I was with, we opened for them. And I saw Bobby, and it was old homie. He's such a great guy. He's always awesome. been down to earth and just an awesome guy, great guy. But Blitz was funny. Like Blitz was another guy like Rhett Forster in that he was a star. The guy is a star. Like he has that the charisma. He's got the charisma. He's a great singer, a great front man. But Dee Dee was really solid.
And they're still running at it. Our friend and I got to shout out Bob Riley here, because Bob Riley was in a band called Stigmata, and the drummer was Jason, who plays drums with Overkill now.
Jason Bittner. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jason
Sorry, I was blank. Yeah, I had him on the show.
Yeah.
Bittner played in Stigmata with Bob Riley, more upstage stuff. So it's really nice that, Bittner did his time. It's really nice that Bittner, has a gig like that now. He certainly deserves it.
Yes, he does. And
I got to shout out. Hold on, I got to shout out Chris Contos. Chris Contos, shouting out Chris Contos in San Francisco. Great drummer, the drummer for Machine Head, and a couple others. He was in Testament. So shouting out drummer Chris Contos as well. I'm sorry. Continue. Nice.
Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, so they were, and Gustafson was phenomenal, and Rat, I love Rat. Rat was a really fun guy to work with. He's, at first he was partied a little bit. He came in one day and had to say, Rat, you gotta tone it down, because it was just shot. You can't stay up all night. When you're playing fast double bass drums, you can't burn yourself out. You got to have the stamina. But he got it together and played great. But he was just a good, fun guy. And Gustafson was really an intense guy. And he was a monster guitarist, but he was really intense. And I know they parted ways with him after a while. But he's a monster guitarist.
That was a long time ago now. He's been out. Long time. Let me take a sponsor break here, my last sponsor break, and then we'll come back and we'll take questions from around the world, okay?
Sounds good.
See you in a bit. Often imitated, never duplicated. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Carl Canedy from The Rods, and we're getting into his production career. Questions. I know a lot of people have been posting questions through the whole show. Please repost them. Let's go deep with this dude. You know, let's have some fun with this guy. So repost them. Also, if you have a burning desire and a burning question, there's a super chat. You could do a super chat. It's a good way to support the show. It comes in color. You come right to the front of the line. A couple things I want to mention real quick. Follow me on Instagram. Follow the show on Instagram, please. If you're new to the show, pick up your communication device. Get on Instagram. It's Stone Films NYC. Please, you get find out what's going on as it's going down. Also, I mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. There's a Patreon page. This show needs your support, so please do the do. Want to mention a couple shows coming up. Let me clear this a little bit so we could talk about what's coming up. What's coming up? I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. Let me get all this stuff off. Excuse me. Have you heard Sunday matinees are back on the Bowery? Free, all ages matinees. We got another one coming up on May 22nd. Get your ass down there with Ludachrist, Butterbrain, Thug It, I Quit, Extinguish the Code, and Deja. That's Sunday, May 22nd. That is our next free, all ages Bowery Electric show. The one after that, which is in Augusto, in August, we, Incendiary Device, commonly known as ID, will be playing our first show, and we are honored to be on the bill with Sworn Enemy. Inhuman is doing a reunion. Blackout Shoppers, Sewage, DJ Sid the Kid, Hail, Hail, the gang's all here. That is Sunday, June 25th. Get your shoes and socks on, kids. It is truly right around the corner. Couple other shows. On Wednesday, June 1st, this ties in with my new film. Laser Lloyd is going to be on the show. He's in my new film, The Jesus and the Blues, which is screening down in D.C., in Brooklyn, in Germany, in Israel. I'm doing the rounds. It's on the festival circuit. My new film is out there. If you have a chance, please come to the screening. Laser Lloyd is coming on the show. Excuse me. Which reminds me, I want to let you know that for the Brooklyn screening, where is my flyer? Here it is. Nighthawk Cinema. Monday, May 23rd. There's a couple of tickets left. And boy, would I like to see you there. Monday, May 23rd, I am doing a Q&A. It is hosted by Howie Abrams, who's been on the show, former A&R exec, author. He is moderating the Q&A with myself, my brother Evan B. Stone, and Gilly Yallo, a musician that appears in the film. Excuse me. And that said, what else? Everything's good. Everything's good. Yes, you can still see the Typo Negative disc. Of course, I haven't sold that one. Not like the Insane Clown Posse gold record. Some crazy juggalo, maybe some crazy offer. Shouting out Chris Contos. The new Boneless Ones record, Back to the Grind, comes out on May 13th. There you go. Yep. Hey, yo, Drew, not for nothing, but there is already an Incendiary band from Long Island. Might want to find a new name. No, we are Incendiary Device. That's like saying yeah, that's not happening, bro. We are Incendiary Device, commonly known as ID. So there you go. That's like saying there's the Dead. there's the Grateful Dead. There's the Dead Kennedys. There's only one idea, bro. It's all variations on one idea. You know, that's nothing new. Questions for Carl Canedy? Please post them up. Let's do this. Let's bring him back on. Hey, man.
Hey.
Let's see what we got. Yes. So Paulie, you know, thank you, Paulie. Let's mention this. Paulie says, wasn't Blue Cheer mentioned on the flyer for the show? Yes. And let's talk about your involvement with this record, how it came to be, and any memories you may have.
I have great memories of Blue Cheer. When I was young, like I had been listening to 45s, and so I was listening to Top 40 when I started playing, and then I might have been playing for 2 or 3 years. I was probably 16, maybe. I was watching Dick Clark, and suddenly this band with long hair comes on, and they're playing Summertime Blues, right? I don't know what year that was, 67, 68, whatever it was. And just blowing out like the TV speaker, like you've never heard anything like it. And he's, you know, wailing on the drums. And I went, oh my God, that's it. That's what I want to do. I went out and bought another bass drum. And and I love Blue Cheer. I would buy all their albums. I was a huge Blue Cheer fan. So getting to work with them when Johnny said, hey, I want to do this album, The Beast is Back, and we produce it, like, of course. So I got to be good friends, especially with Dickie, but I really liked Paul a lot, and I tried to work with him because he would have moments. He was a, ex-heroin addict, and there would be moments when he had self-doubt, and sometimes he would just stop, put his head down, and I try to remind him that he was an original. Just play. Don't try to compete with young drummers. You're an original. You just need to do what you do.
Yeah.
And they were great. Yeah, exactly. And Dickie was so tight as a bass player. And of course he played with a pick, but he was so tight and he was such a great singer. But I have some funny stories. There's one where we had a vocal session booked at night. And Dickie shows up. I'm ready to go. And he's got a bottle of gin that's about this much left in the bottle. And he can barely talk. He's just blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, Dickie, I think, you know what? Let's do it tomorrow. I think let's take the night off. No, I'm good to go now. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think we'll wait. We'll wait. He could barely form words, but he wanted to sing, and I talked him out of it. But there was a time when I was working with him, and these guys hadn't been, playing together very long, and hadn't been back together.
Right. I mean, they took a hiatus of
they did.
It was like a decade, right?
Yes, and so they had a song called "Ride." I have to look up on the album, but it was a 6+ minute song, and they were struggling to get through. And so we'd done a take, and they could only get to half of it. It seemed like there would always be a little crash, right? And so Paul Curcio, who didn't produce the album at all, but he got co-production credit, but he was never in the control room, and he was never in the control room after this. So the guys were upstairs on the second floor. So I'm in the control room. So I would be running up and down. But at this point, I was in the control room, and Paul Curcio kept hearing this song going by, and they just couldn't get it. So we're talking to the guys upstairs, and Chris Bubach has the talkback. So the mic is open, so the guys can hear everything that's being said in the control room, which is something that when you're on the second floor, you always want to hear that because you don't know what people are saying. So you want to know they're not, talking shit about you. So Paul Curcio comes in, and he goes, Carl, why are you doing this over and over? They can't get it. They don't play well enough to get through the whole song. Just tell them it's good enough and move on. So the next thing I hear is a door slam, and Dickie running across the studio and telling Curcio, don't ever come back into that room. And we thought it was going to be fist flying. But from that point on, Paul Curcio was not allowed in the control room anywhere near those guys. they were pissed, and I don't blame them. It was an insulting thing to do, to say to them. And and I was working with them. We were getting it, and we got it. But it was, and if it had been me as the artist, I would have felt the same way. You're supposed to be, even though you're not around. Like, he didn't do any pre-production with them. He did nothing. But even with that, if you're supposed to have your name on it, you either lead, follow, or get out of the way. But anyway, Dickie was a scrappy guy, and he was a fighter, man. It would have been an ugly, ugly thing if he had let the fist go, because he was pissed.
Absolutely. Here's one from our beloved friend Bob Raleigh up in Troy, and he's asked a couple of times, the first rap metal record, The Lone Ranger.
Yes, that was
which was Johnny Z, right?
Johnny Z, and
I mean that thing that is like that thing. How can I even put into words how it's become like a classic? You know, people love that fucking thing. You know,
Johnny. We did it at Music America, and Johnny came to me and he said, "Hey, could you write something? I've got these lyrics." So David and I put this thing together, and so Johnny comes up, and then he knocks it out. And he was really nervous. He was telling me recently how much he drank before. He goes, "I was really nervous," and but he knocks it out. Did a really good job on it. And then the next day, Marsha brings up children, and she directs this children's choir. We actually had them in the kids in the drum booth, so they were contained, and the sound was a little more contained. Sure. And she directed the kids, and she did a great job. She was so good with the kids; they loved it. But and then Johnny's like, "Well, what do I do for a B-side?" So David had already gone, because we had been doing a Rod session, and David was gone after we had done the basic track. So Duck was around, and so I said, "Duck, can you just play solo?" So Duck winds up on going through the music. He just plays solos over the rap song for side B. And that's how the whole thing happened.
Hey, I want to shout out Erin Canedy. Hi, Drew, Carl's daughter here. I'm thrilled to be listening and learning about you and your career, and listening to my dad talk too. Glad to be watching. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I love doing what I do, and it happened sort of by accident. I'm a filmmaker and a musician by nature, but I really love doing this now. It's an interesting world we live in. This is a good question from Stelios. In your opinion, who was the most underrated band of thrash metal? Let me rephrase that a little bit. Was there any sort of unsung hero, or somebody that you thought wow, these guys are really great, and for whatever the reason, sort of didn't grab that brass ring? And in looking back in the swirling sands of time.
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
I know, like I said about Neil Turbin, I really felt that Neil Turbin, just as a musician, really kind of got slagged a lot, and really kind of stepped on for a long time. But he's so great and very underrated after the Anthrax first album. I don't know that I can think of someone.
Well, maybe something will pop into it. I have a personal one. Being a Savoy Brown fan, were you apparently you were involved in the Central Park recording, the live one?
I was, and that the whole thing.
What's the story? What's the story with that? Were you there for the recording? Did you you got involved in it later?
The way, and it's an interesting thing, and I talk about it in depth in my book. I sound like I'm trying to sell a copy now. There isn't even a copy to sell.
We'll get
Kim
there.
Simmons, Arnie Goodman. You must know Arnie Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
So Arnie introduced me to Kim Simmons. Kim Simmons wound up living with me. He's like, I had an extra room in my house, and he was there for a few months. So that's how Kim Simmons and the whole upstate thing kind of took roots. That's how Gary wound up playing with him. That's how Duck wound up playing with him. That's how, that's how this whole thing happened. But my first recording, I was telling you about the Elmira College, the tape recorders, first on. My first recordings were I'm Tired by Savoy Brown at Elmira College. So it was the first Savoy Brown songs.
Wow.
And so you know, I've been a big fan. So, and Kim was such a cool guy. He is such a cool guy.
Yeah.
So I was with him, and Kim just asked me, you know, can you help me out with this? And so that was it. It was a very simple thing. And
what did they record, that multi-track, and it sat around for all those years?
Mm-hmm. And it's great, and you hear how great they were.
Shit, man.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It's fantastic. That band was.
They kicked
the real
that
deal.
era. That era, man. They were awesome, man. They were great.
When I had my recording studio, I have a friend who he's more of an antique dealer and a Harley guy, and he would say to me, "Why is it that the early stuff sounds so much better to me, even though there's so much technology?" And I said, because in the early days, you had to play from the count off to the end of the song.
Sure.
It had to have a vibe, and you had to have the whole package, and you'd be in a room together, and there would be bleed and whatever, but there had to be a magic that was created by the band, or it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't the microphones or the technology, it was the band creating the magic. And that's true. Bands like Savoy Brown, that's why you hear that stuff, you're like, wow, this stuff is great.
You know, we mentioned it on the show a while back, and is that, you know, I hear even disco records now, and they just sound so good to me because they're analog, and I can hear the room. You know what I mean? It's like, that's one thing I don't get anymore from today's recordings. You know, it's like those older recordings, I can hear the room. I could smell the room. I could taste the room. You know what I mean? And I love that, man.
There's space in the recordings. But if you notice now, everything, even if you don't intend it to be that way in your mix, even if your mix does this, you have peaks and valleys. When you master it, it will be mastered to the top line, so there's nothing there. When you open it up and look at a WAV file, there's no breathing to it whatsoever. It's hard, and I'm against that. I don't love that. Unfortunately, there is an issue where, in order to compete, and that started years ago with records and mastering, when the whole deal with mastering a record was to make it sound louder than the next record.
That's right.
You know, so I mean, it's just gone on generation after generation. But I'm not a fan of it, and I really don't like that. And I do like records that are made that just have some air, and you can dynamics, and then just you can hear the music. And
it's interesting because having grown up, you know, in New York City, you know, in that era, you know, and hating disco, you know, what are you? You know, are you a rock guy, or, you know? Disco? And now I hear the disco stuff, and it's like a warm blanket. I love it.
But don't you think that that's the way it is with all music? Because eventually, as time goes by, the crap falls away, but the great stuff stays. It has staying power, and it's great for a reason. It doesn't matter whatever, because people say, "Oh, you like bluegrass?" Like, well, I like bluegrass if it's really well done. Of course, I love all kinds of music if it's well done, if the song is really good. So I think that's because I think the same way you think. You're saying about disco. I hear that stuff. I go, "Wow, Donna Summer." I always loved her, but Donna Summer stuff, it sounds so great, and you know, just sonically.
Here is well, Gary asks, plug the book and title. I've bought books from everyone from Glenn Friedman, Johnny Z to Nancy Barile based on this show. Well, thank you. Is there a title yet?
The working title is Tales of a Wild Dog.
There you go. But we won't ask when it's going to get done yet. It's a work in progress, right?
Yeah, it should be done soon. I mean, it's close.
Here's a good one. Any memories supporting Ozzy on tour? Was that the Randy era or the Jake E. Lee era? Good question.
It was the Randy era. The first show we did with them was the Landmark Theater in Syracuse, New York. And we're in the dressing room. And you have to remember, I think Randy studied with Satriani, maybe. I can't remember who he studied with, but they were playing modes, and they were playing a lot of, they weren't playing traditional pentatonic and blues scales. They were really playing some new things. And so we're in our dressing room. Suddenly Randy fires up, and it was so loud that when we were speaking to each other, we saw our mouths move, but we couldn't hear the words. And that was from his dressing room way down the hall. But he was playing things we never heard him play on the album. He was phenomenal. And the nicest guy. Rudy was really nice. In fact, Gary something happened to his bass strap, and Rudy loaned him one. but they were great. And I remember doing the my drum solo, and I was a huge Tommy Aldridge fan from Black Oak, Arkansas days.
Come on now, Black Oak. Come on, you want to talk? You want to get a little boogie? You want a boogie? Come on now.
So I was a huge.
Excuse me. You want to talk upstate boogie bands, right? Come on now.
So I had stolen everything I could from Tommy Aldridge, including I wore wristbands for years because it was great. Because when you're perspiring or if you just need to wipe your brow, so I see Tommy during my solo. I see Tommy watching me from the side of the stage, and I'm like, wow, Tommy Aldridge is watching me. It was such a big moment for me. And of course, he's watching me thinking, I'm going to kill this guy. He's stolen everything I do. You know, like, I mean, I hacked it out, but I stole a lot of crap from him. And, you know, but I'm not ashamed to say I steal from everybody. And,
well, he was a great double bass drummer. I saw Whitesnake a couple years ago, and like, you know, I basically went to go see Whitesnake to see Tommy Aldridge. Really, you know, I mean, yeah.
Tommy's a great showman.
He's still great. He's still really great.
Still great. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. So, but they, you know, it was great. It was fun. And then I do remember I have a couple memories of that, and one is that my friend. In Cortland, there are a lot of road crew because of Elf. And so as it turned out that Ox was Tommy Aldrich's was drum tech. And he was from Cortland, so I knew Ox. And so we're backstage, and Tommy's sitting by the bay door just outside. And I walk by and I go, Tommy, I'm a huge fan. You know, I have to tell you, I really, you know, just admire you drumming. And he just looks away. He doesn't say a word. He totally snubbed me. And Ox looks at me and goes, sorry, man. And so I don't know what that was about, but I was like, wow, don't your heroes, you know, caution when you're going to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, I've heard he's a really nice guy. He just was not very nice to me on that tour. But Ozzy, before the shows, you had to be locked down because Ozzy would pace the halls. So you had to be in your dressing rooms, and nobody could look at Ozzy because he paced the halls, which was weird and also really cool.
Hey, let me build on that a little bit. I was out I might have been with Biohazard at the time, and they were doing a couple Ozfests, and Ozzy.
Biohazard were great.
Yeah, the place was locked down, and Ozzy would get on this bike and all this stuff, and they'd rev him up and they turn him loose, and there was some kind of a technical issue, and he couldn't, you know, go out, you know, the program, the timing, and he absolutely had a meltdown. It was like, you know, because I guess there's a whole program. They lock it down. They put him on the bike. He comes off the bike. They shoot him out on stage, and there was a technical issue, and he was off the bike, and it was a freak out. Poor bastard, you know. Kevin Gartland. It's safe to say that David Lee Roth stole his act from Jim Dandy Magnum. That is
absolutely
pretty safe to say, bro.
Yep, no doubt about that. But you have to say that David Lee Roth did a good job of stealing it. Yeah.
Chris Contos opened for Thin Lizzy and Tommy. Who were you playing drums with when you opened for Thin Lizzy? Not Machine Head, right? Who were you playing with that opened for Thin Lizzy? That said, Paulie Porkchops, any memories of recording with Hellstar from Texas? James Rivera has an amazing voice.
That was a really interesting. I wasn't brought in to produce the album. I was brought in as a liaison for the record label. But as it turned out, they didn't have a producer. So I wound up in pre-production with them. And to this day, they're my boys. Like, they call me dad. I call them son. That's awesome. For James and Larry. In fact, there's I don't know if you can see it. I'll see if I can.
Yeah, what's going on back there?
Right?
Yeah.
You see the red guitar hanging there?
Uh-huh.
I brought that back from the Hellstar session. Larry gave me that as a gift, and I took the neck off and put it in my suitcase and brought it home with me from Houston.
Wow.
So that was a gift that means a lot to me. So that's why I keep it hanging. They were phenomenal. No, they were phenomenal, and they were the nicest guys. And you know, we've remained good friends all these years. But it was nice to work with them in the studio. They had it together, and pre-production went smoothly. And you know, when we went to the studio, I stepped in more because there was an engineer who was one of those, I can do anything and I can show you, and they just totally didn't get the band, and so I stepped in and took over. And, you know, I didn't intend to do that, and I wasn't trying to do it to usurp anybody's authority, but I just said I can't sit here and let these guys get stepped on, and you know,
yeah,
have to make the best record they can.
That's funny. Kevin Garland says, first time I've ever heard Kim Simmons mentioned on the New York Hardcore Chronicles. Yo, don't get it mixed up. I love Savoy Brown. Hellbound Train, baby. Hey, I want to shout out Damon Colledy, fellow filmmaker. He asks, did the Rods ever cross paths or play with Riot when Guy was the singer? Any impressions or stories from that time? Both bands were pioneering metal in New York around the same time.
We never did, and we would be touring like in Texas, and we'd hear them on the radio, Swords of Tequila all the time. And we'd be hearing one of Crank It Up on the radio, and but we never, for some reason, and it's odd, really, when you think about it, why there wasn't a double bill with Riot and the Rods. I'd never. You know, would have thought that would have been a good thing for a promoter, especially in the New York area, tri-state area. But we never did. But at one point I had been talking to Mark Reality, and he asked me to come in to play with Riot. And I had a breakdown on the way. And this was before cell phones. This was 86, maybe something. Oof. And I never made it. And then before he died, we were talking again about doing something, but he was sick, and it just never happened. But it would have been cool to play with Ryan. I always thought they're a great band.
Makes sense. Here, explain what's happening here. This photo. What's the 450s?
The 450s is my band that's out now.
Okay.
And you can go to the 450s, the450s.com, and that's available. Vinyl will be available very soon. And we did this album, recorded this album in Miami. And this the two brothers, Jim and Bob Jacobs. And I worked with them produced them when we actually released an album called Resurgence, but I did a number of albums with them and just could never get them signed. And then the singer from Young Turk, Rhett, and who I did get signed to Geffen and Virgin and produced. And so we'd all been friends all these years, and we'd wanted to work in a band together. And I think I'm really proud of this album. And it's gritty, you know, it's like a punk, there's a punk edge to it. It's gritty. Lyrics are not your typical lyrics. They're gritty. And they're really great.
Are you guys playing out at all?
We've been trying, but COVID hit, and we just, you know, so we're gonna hopefully we're gonna get some gigs, but you know, it's made it really difficult. Same with my band Canedy. The Canedy band is playing May 27th here in Scranton, and I'm excited about that. And we just finished 3 songs, a 3-song demo we have, which are going to shop for a label, and I'm excited about that, the new stuff. So it's who I got. Time.
I got to shout out Online Metal PR who hooked us up, man.
Ben, great guy. Yeah. He's worked with me for years now. He's
is that right?
Faithful, dedicated guy. Done a great job for me.
Yeah, and he reached out to me, and we started a dialogue, and we sort of made our way through it. But he's a loyal soldier, bro. He loves you, man. So
he is.
I want to shout him out on Online Metal PR on Instagram, and
he's a hardworking guy, and he's dedicated.
He has a real passion, and that's what's important here, right?
Absolutely.
What else? I want to. Is there, as we head down the home stretch here, is there anybody gear-wise you want to shout out? Anybody that's been backing you that you need to say a kind word about?
Well, Steve Loebmeyer at Evans has been nothing but phenomenal. Promark, Evans drum heads. In fact, I see you have that picture, 101 drum, signature drum here.
Ooh, that's nice.
Carl Cannedy's signature snare drum that I'm holding in that picture. And this is just a killer drum. It's got this flips off completely, but you got three strainer, which drummers will know. You got 3 settings on this, and it's a wood fiber composite, so it's just got a killer tone, which of course you can't hear over the phone or over YouTube. But I love this drum. It's just
that's really nice. That's really nice, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So, and Big Bang, Chacho cymbals. Like I have an endorsement with them, and they've been wonderful to me. So I'm grateful. I have sim pads. So there are a number of people. But Steve Loebmeyer, he's just been a wonderful guy. Best rep I could have.
All these years later, you still enjoy playing drums?
I really do. I mean, I have this Colossus album that's almost done. I have just working on Shockwave, the rods, which will be done not long. It won't take long to finish that. And working on the new Canedy, even though we have 3 songs done now in a demo form, we're writing all the time. So I'm excited about the Canedy band and playing more dates with the Canedy band as well as the rods. The rods are playing July 10th. But as my daughter says, my life is, I'm a realtor now, but my life is drums and real estate. That's it. I mean, I play drums and write all the time. So that's my thing, plus real estate.
We've mentioned this before many times, and I found this being the case too, is that playing with people at this point, I really enjoy it because all the pressure and stress is not on the band has to make it. We have to get a deal. We have to do this. Right. Let's fight about the publishing. So in a certain way, right. And I'm speaking for a lot of other people, have been able to sort of circle back and really enjoy playing music again. Do you find that's the case?
I was going to say something early on when you mentioned that about, and it was, it was told to me early on when in the Raw Meat days when Dave Porter, I said, we could get better musicians. And he said, great musicians don't always make a great band.
That's right.
And what you're talking about is if there's a band with synergy, and especially now because nobody's getting rich, very few bands, unless you're on the road and you've got a high profile name, you're doing it because you love it. And, right. And I think if you're playing with musicians who are really in tune with each other and having fun and enjoying it, that's the gig, because I didn't think I would be this old and be playing at this level and enjoying it the way I play. I mean, I'm driven still after all these years. So I'm thrilled. And that's why I love the Canedy band, because everybody in the band is cool. I've been, we've been together for a while now, a number of years. And it's a no stress kind of thing. And yet the band's, killer band.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, and Larry the Hunter, 110%. Absolutely, that's something I've discovered. I'm sure there's young guys out there squabbling and killing each other right now over the band stuff, but yep. Chris Conto
I think being
says,
a young band is
what?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I think being a young band now and trying to achieve success is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
There's so much you have to rise above the noise, and everybody has a product out. Everybody can record at home. It is tough. It's tough to find your way now.
And that could be said for, a lot of things, including the film business or being a film director or doing film stuff. Everybody's a film director now. Everybody's got a documentary. Everybody's
a photographer.
Everybody's a photographer. And, everybody's a porno star. Everybody's got, it's like, it's sort of the way of the world. And I must, Chris Conto says, there's no money in the game. The key is to fill your heart, not your pocket. But that said, to a certain extent, yeah. But if you go with your heart, a lot of times you know, other things, you go with your heart, and other things will follow, which is what I've found. I've followed my heart through certain things, and then incredibly there was a monetary gain from it that followed. But I didn't do. I don't do things. I'm not motivated to do things by money. That's just me. That's just me.
Right. I think if you're making music, you have to make music you believe in, because at the end of the day,
yeah,
that's all you have. And if you're trying to be somebody else or chase the latest thing,
sure,
or compromise it, at the end of the day, if you didn't make any money from it, now what do you go look back at what you did and you think, oh my God, you know what? I could have done so much better. I cheesed out. And who wants to feel that way? At least you can say, I'm proud of what I did. Maybe it didn't achieve financial and commercial success that I wanted and was hoping for, but what we did was great, and I'm proud of it. And at least you can stand by what you did instead of being embarrassed by it, which is something we all try to avoid.
And what's your legacy going to be? You know, what's your legacy going to be? Is it going to be, wow, I remember him, boy, he sure made a lot of money, what a great guy, or you know, or is it going to be, wow, he made great art, and that potentially
that's right,
and that potentially could live forever, and that's pretty much how I live my life at this point, you know.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to live your life.
Yeah.
And you seem obviously very dedicated and very driven. So, I mean, kudos to you.
You know how things go. Things go full circle in life, you know. It's like, you know, I have arrived here after, you know, being there, and it's a good place to be. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really, really enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be a great show. And I could see, you know, our people out there really enjoyed it. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or shout out on your way out?
Well, I want to thank you for this, because this kind of support is huge. As we all know, it's tough, and we just talked about how that is. And so what you're doing is fantastic. It's a great service to the fans and to the musicians. So it gives us a forum. So thank you so much for that. And, you know, I always thank the fans, because about 15 years ago, when the internet might have been longer than that, but so we had been told by our management that toward the end that nobody gave a fuck about, the quote was, nobody gives a fuck about the Rods. That's what our manager told us. So now with the advent of the internet, and that's how we wound up with Hans Daka hiring us to go to Norway. And that's when we first started doing festivals, was suddenly the internet, people were finding us, and people around the world did care about the Rods. And so, you know, I thank all the fans who stuck by us, and welcome all the new fans, because I know we have a lot of younger fans, which is, you know, fantastic for a band that's been around 42 years. So, you know, I thank you. And when we play shows, which hopefully we will be playing again, I always encourage fans to come up and say hi. I won't do a Tommy Aldrich on you. You know, I'm always happy to meet everybody and talk to everybody. And, you know, so don't be afraid, you know, just let one of the crew know, or just come up and say hi. You know, I guarantee I won't snub you, and I'll do my best. Even if I'm busy, at least I'll say hi. And excuse me, you won't feel embarrassed about saying hi to me. So, but thanks to all the fans who supported us, because here we are all these years later, still making Shockwave, a new album. So, and a new Canedy album, you know, what can I say? And the Colossus album. So,
yeah. And it's like Chris Canto says, keep going, Carl. You are so very important to the music world. So, well, and this is from fellow drummers, and a lot of, and I want to thank a lot of drummers tuned into today's show. It was good to see Chris Cantos and Matt Gray wanted to, you know, be a part of it, and you know, a lot of drummers tuned in today. So it's good. It's good to see you all out there. Carl, hey, let's keep in touch, man. And you know, I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I'm coming to see you play. We'll chop it up then.
I think we need to get both bands together.
Yeah. Hey man, you know, come down and play in New York with us, man. That you know,
that would be great.
I'll let you know. You know, and hey, all the best to you and yours in Scranton.
Thanks so much, Drew. Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay. Have a great rehearsal tonight, bro.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll take care. Well, there you have it. God damn, that was a great show. Our guest was Carl Canedy. And, yo, that's how we do it here, man. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do it. And you're a big part of this, honestly. I couldn't do this myself. I wouldn't want to do this myself. What am I going to do? Sit here and talk to myself? Just knowing you're out there, the Chris Contoses, you know, the Gary Oliferts, you know, everybody, Bob Riley. I can't do this without you guys. Shit. You know what I didn't do? And I'm a superstitious kind of dude. I got to shout. I spaced out on some of my sponsors, and I got to shout them out. Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, located in Lakewood, Colorado, is the Rocky Mountain headquarters for all things punk, hardcore, and metal. Established in 2014, they have the largest selection of CDs, shirts, stickers, patches, and accessories between Chicago and LA. From the pit to the ditch, they got your back. Get in touch with them at www.chainreactionrecords.com. Also, DTFM Vinyl Distro. It's a record store that specializes in underground music, punk, ska, hardcore, metal, and more. Located in the heart of Fargo, North Dakota's Industrial District. Shop in person or online at www.dtfmvinyldistrict.com, where the motto is death to false metal. Want to shout out our friends at Grunge and Grime Soap Company. They're not an official sponsor, but we love them. And they sent us some soap to wash our bades with. So big shout out to Grunge and Grime. And of course, Organic Grill. I'm not going to get into the whole rap, but Vlad just moved. I was at the new space yesterday at 133 3rd Street on the corner of 6th Avenue, right next to the Blue Note. They're probably opening in about a month. Organic Grill. We will get down with them when the time comes. What else? Yeah. Yep. Tim Reichel, thank you, buddy. And thank you for being a one of my patrons. And Al Mitchell from Circus of Power, man, had a nice talk with you last night on the phone. You know, so much great music. Speaking of Circus of Power, you know, big Circus of Power fan, Bob Riley. You know, Bob Riley, we gotta get you on the show. We gotta make it work. We gotta punch through it, bro. You have to come on the show. I want, you know, Drew, the show just keeps growing, as does your audience. Good times. 200 shows, 2 years. Go figure. Listen, there's an ebb and a flow to this thing, right? You know, I look back at the numbers, you know, when we first started in the pandemic, when everybody was locked inside, the numbers were staggering. I look back at some of those numbers, it's like, what? And but there's an ebb and a flow. You know, the wave goes out and the wave goes back in, but this show's not going anywhere. Thank you, Blast Beat. And, yo, shouting out Mr. Wolf, Larry Kelly, who saved the day in Tompkins Square Park for the big show. Mr. Wolf, Larry Kelly. So we always appreciate that. Yeah, next up is Mr. Caves from Lords of Brooklyn. Then a week after that, you know, is it a week after that? Mr. Caves. Oh, no, then we got the Green Jelly thing and then the Life of Agony stuff. Got to get Blackie Lawless on here. That would be interesting. I don't have a connection to Blackie Lawless, but, you know, but I do have a connection to Ross the Boss, the same guy that handles Carl. You know, we're talking about getting Ross the Boss on here. So that would be cool. You know, Ross the Boss would be cool. Like that. Yo, I got to shout out Little Freeman. You know, that's a rabble rouser right there. And I found this dude's wallet. in Tompkins Square Park. And you know, someone said to me, yo, we just found this wallet on the ground, right? And I looked at I'm like, wallet? I open it up. It's packed full of stuff. And who is it? It's Little Freeman. I walk up to him and his gal standing there. I go, yo, knucklehead, here's your freaking wallet. He didn't even know it was missing. Turnstile should be on the show. Yeah, right. Yeah. I had Freaky Franz. I did a 10 questions with him, and now like my analytics on YouTube, the bass player from Turnstile, Freaky Franz, is like in any given week, it's one of the most viewed things on YouTube. Turnstile's a big. I still don't have. Oh, you. Hey, is this still missing your watch? Is this watch yours? King Diamond. Listen, man. I'd love to get King on the show. King's a really. Where's my King Diamond picture? I know. I've showed this before. King's a really great guy to talk to. I've talked to King a couple times. Where's my King Diamond shot of me and? Yeah, here we go. Come on now. Me and King Diamond. This was taken like out there when I was, tour managing for Biohazard. This is out in Europe, but yeah. There you go. He's a great guy to talk to. Am I going to do a show being in Berlin? No, I'm not. I learned the hard way that doing this show outside the confines of my apartment in Manhattan is very difficult. There's too many variables. I also do the show on multi-screens here. I like doing the shows here. I feel good about them, and I feel like I could deliver the goods here. I try not to do them from my dad's anymore. I try to go down to see my dad when there's a week off. I like doing the shows right here. This is where I feel I do the best shows. This guy's name comes up a lot, Contos. Negro. I have him on my list. I don't have a contact with him. But if you do or anybody else, Negro from Behemoth, for some reason his name comes up a lot about having him on the show. So, yeah. Come on now. In London, Volt. What's happening, brother? Neil Fallon. Yeah. You know what? Neil, I was on a Biohazard tour with Clutch very early, their first tour. And I travel with Neil. I have not been in touch with him since. But, having Neil's a good dude. Neil's welcome to come on the show. Yeah, hook me up with him, Chris. That'd be cool. That'd be yeah. Let's get him on. Minus is not computer savvy. Minus from Marauder. He's not a computer guy. He's not interested. Get Millwall Roy from the last. Sure, I don't have a connection to him. I have listen. You want to know a little something? Here's a little something since we're talking here. You know who just said that he'd do the show May 29th? Greg Hetson from Circle Jerks, formerly of Bad Religion. So Greg Hetson, we're going to line up Greg Hetson. We're going to line up Bob Riley. Listen, and this one here, for those that know, man, this one here is going to be big. This is a guy that I share a lot of history with. And it's taken me 2 years to get him to come on the show. So, and I posted this flyer and people talk out the side of their neck and about this guy and this and that. But, this guy put me on back in the day. And I learned a lot from Evan and from Biohazard. I'm really looking forward to and I know Contos, too. Contos, you toured with Biohazard. This is going to be an interesting show. Keep in mind, my friends, that the most viewed show that we have ever done was the Biohazard show with Danny, Billy, and Bobby. That's the most viewed show I've ever done. So there you go. It might be my biggest show. We'll see. We'll see. I got a couple of cards up my sleeve still. Yeah, Logan, Logan would be interesting. I would I talk to Logan. Down with Logan. You know, how about Rick Rubin? Huh. I wish I could talk to Rick on the show. Yeah. Man. Cheetah Chrome's a good one, actually. I'm friends with Cheetah, and he was in the Alago film. He's on my to-do list. You know, I think you know, Cheetah was gracious enough to be in the Alago film that I directed, and Cheetah's good people. Biafra, love to. I just don't have a connection with him. I don't have a way to, you know, I don't have a, you know, I haven't really reached out either. But Jello's a big one. Jello's a big one. You know. You know. That said, all right. What else? Yeah, I could get him, and I'm cool. I got. Listen, I could call Cheetah right now. I haven't really. I got his number in the phone. Pat Dubar. I don't have a connection to Pat, but I think he'd make a great guest. He's welcome to come on the show. What else? What else you got? The guys from the Templars. It's a possibility. What about Rollins? What about Rollins? Listen, let me say this about Rollins. There's a couple of people that are on the Mount Rushmore of American hardcore. Rollins is one of them. There's a couple others, and I just want to say that I'm in touch with another one of the people that are on the Mount Rushmore of American hardcore, and that's looking like it could happen. So I don't want to say who it is. Okay, let's not go there. Jay Mascis is just not a good interview. I don't think you know he'd be. I don't think Jay Mascis would be like really good on the show. Listen, bro, that's my dude. You know. I love John. He's just got, you know, he's got some issues, some stuff in his family. Love John. John Lydon's a friend of mine. I love him. It's just not the right time to get him on the show. He's dealing with some shit right now. You know. You know, about Des Cadena. I was in touch with Des for a minute. He's not computer savvy. It's also hard to talk to somebody who's never seen the show or understand what we do here. There's a lot of people that know about the show and have seen the show and have heard about the show. They are much easier to get onto the show than somebody like, hey, I do this show. And yeah. How about Steve Albini? Sure. You think? That'd be great. You know. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Human Brisket. John's dealing with some issues. My dad's got, you know, I deal with that with my dad a little bit. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. John's a great guy. Don't be fooled by the crap you see on the internet. You know, he's just a great, loving person. He's a great guy. Yeah. Detonators from Oregon or Poison Idea. Yeah. You know, I thought about that. John Connolly from Negative Approach. I mean, excuse me, my bad. From Nuclear Assault. And I have a history with them. I produced the video offhand. What video? The Trail of Tears. Paris Mayhew from Cro-Mags directed it. I produced Trail of Tears video off Handle with Care record. John Connolly would be a good one. Come on now. That's what I'm talking about, Goran. Let's get Allie from Stiff Little Fingers on the show. Yeah. I'm a big fan, man. Alvy Singer. Sure. Yeah, Jerry A from Poison Idea. That's a thought. Who do I want on the show? I don't know. You know, so many people come through the show. I'm confident that we'll get to everybody. You know, there's been very few disappointments, a couple of people, but there's just been so much joy that, you know, we have such a great. Who do I want on the show? A bunch of the people that are actually coming on the show. You know, so there's been so many great. You know, I'm a music fan. I grew up a music fan, a music lover. So, you know, now I have an opportunity, even talking to Carl today, you know, what a great guy, you know, and just to be able to chop it up with him. And I learned so much, you know, from these shows. And I know you do too, you know. Pat Duncan. Well, I don't know what Pat Duncan, you know, Pat Duncan's is a legend, but I'm not sure what. Yeah, I think Pat Duncan works the scoreboard for the Mets now. At Alex Kolnick. Yeah, of course. You know? Funny about Roger Daltrey. A friend of a friend just told me that he just did something with this. He played. A friend plays golf, and ended up just randomly playing golf with the keyboardist from The Who the other day. And then they sort of exchanged numbers. The keyboardist of The Who calls him up and says, "Hey, I'm going to do this cryogenics thing," and invited him. And Daltrey was there as well. He said Daltrey was the nicest guy, you know. We had Randy now. It didn't work out. You know, I've reached out to Dave from MDC. I'd love to get him. I didn't get a response. So there you go. All right, Chris Contos, let's end it on this. I get so much enjoyment from this show. It feeds my heart and mind. Oh man, you know, don't choke me up, bro. All right. Don't, you know, I love it. That means the world to me, bro. Coming from you, Chris Contos, you know, god damn, man. Vinny Raffa, good one. I seen Vinny Raffa recently. Vinny Raffa does some work with my godfather, Gabe DiRienzo, up in you know, because they all work in the film business. You know, I've seen Vinny Raffa recently. You know, so there you go. Well, thanks everybody. Let's get on with our lives. Thanks everybody. I'll see you on Sunday with Mr. Caves, which is going to be a really great show with Mr. Caves. So that said, thanks a lot. And until then, my friends. Here, how about this? We'll do it this way. There you go. Until then, do good things, and good things will come to you.